Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales. Chapter 4883. The 800 defensive battle runes of the Great Compassion Heavenly Dragon Seal completely erupted with the power of Golden Light at this time. Under the defense of the Golden Light, Kong Shinmu directly resisted the countless black dragon claws of his opponent with his physical body. When the black dragon claws came crashing down, their power was unable to completely penetrate Kong Shinmu's defense. Kong Shinmu's body-refining dragon-type martial arts technique was extremely strong. Although the black dragon claws bombarded his black dragon body, causing some damage and even tearing some blood-red scars, such injuries were nothing to Kong Shinmu at all. This meant that Kong Shinmu's ordinary defense had reached a very strong level, at least able to resist the level of the black dragon's attack. This might be the strongest attack of the Black Dragon's inheritor without the use of the demon weapon. The ferocious Black Dragon's inheritor was a little surprised that Kong Shinmu withstood such a wave of attacks, but it was obvious that the Black Dragon didn't stay stunned for too long. He directly released two of his top demon weapons. These two top demon weapons formed a set and could actually burst out a stronger power when combined. There were hundreds of offensive battle runes in each demon weapon, and when activated together, it was enough to increase his attack by 10 times. 10 times the attack, descend. Kong Shinmu watched as the opponent's black dragon claws condensed more and more, and they contained a stronger and more terrifying power as they descended from the sky and swept towards him. At this time, he didn't fight the opponent head-on. Instead, when the black dragon claws swept over, he directly used the wind shadow flowing flash and flashed towards an empty and remote place in the arena. Traversing the void, dodging the attack. When Kong Shinmu used this move, the black dragon's inheritor opposite him sneered. Immediately after, the black dragon claws that flooded the space where Kong Shinmu was just now gathered into a more vast dragon claw power and chased after Kong Shinmu's current position. These black dragon claws actually had a tracking function. Now, let's see where you can run to. This black dragon demon inheritance was extremely confident in his own strength. The two sets of top-notch demon weapons that he brought out and the power that erupted from the black dragon claw was a kind of power that could track. If they were in the outside world, Kong Shinmu might be able to escape. But on the stage, there was no possibility of his attack failing. Seeing this, Kong Shinmu's expression froze. He could only activate the Great Sorrow Sky Dragon Seal and use its ability to defend himself. Other than the Great Sorrow Heavenly Dragon Seal, Kong Shinmu had also spent tens of thousands of gold dragon coins to purchase two other materials from the treasure pavilion. One of them was called the Brilliant Ruby Stone. Once the Brilliant Ruby Stone was transformed into a dragon weapon or a battle weapon, it would possess a special ability. It could completely block any attack for a certain period of time. Hence, this Brilliant Ruby Stone was extremely expensive. Moreover, many super divine dragon weapons might not even have such a brilliant ruby stone successfully transformed into a dragon weapon. Kong Shinmu had experimented with the brilliant ruby stone's ability. When activated, it could indeed block any attack. Moreover, the shopkeeper of the treasure pavilion had also reminded him that although the brilliant ruby stone's ability could completely block all attacks for a certain period of time, depending on the strength of the attack, the brilliant ruby stone's ability needed a certain period of time to recover. If the blocked attack was too strong, then the next time the brilliant ruby stone's ability could be used, he would have to wait for a very long period of time. However, after Kong Shinmu's experiments, he didn't need to wait for the brilliant ruby stone's ability to recover. All he needed to do was to use the devouring ability and transfer the devoured energy to the brilliant ruby stone. This was an ability that belonged to him alone. If other people's brilliant ruby stones were to block an attack of the same level, they would probably need 7 days to recover. However, for Kong Shinmu, to block an attack of the same level, he only needed to devour the energy of the opponent's attack to recover the brilliant ruby stone. Brilliant ruby stone, release. At this time, Kang Xinmu had no other choice but to use the power of the brilliant ruby stone in the face of the Black Dragon Goblin's countless tracking attacks from the Black Dragon Goblin's inheritor. Then, on the Great Compassion Heavenly Dragon Seal, the power of the brilliant ruby stone directly burst into a golden light. Under the shroud of the golden light, the 800 defensive battle patterns of the Great Compassion Heavenly Dragon Seal were completely activated. Although the brilliant ruby stone could completely block any attack, in reality, there was still a limit to its block, and the limit was the defensive strength of the dragon weapon that it had illuminated. Therefore, the brilliant ruby stone could only illuminate a defense-type battle weapon. The Great Compassion Heavenly Dragon Seal was already the strongest defense-type battle weapon at the Emperor level. After being illuminated by the brilliant ruby stone, its defense had increased by 50%. All of these led to the fact that Kang Xinmu's brilliant ruby stone could at most block an attack from a peak super divine dragon powerhouse. Of course, in that case, the power of the brilliant ruby stone might not be able to be used for at least a year. However, at critical moments, it was indeed a very useful illumination ability for Kang Xinmu. At this moment, as Kang Xinmu faced the countless tracking black dragon claws, the power of the brilliant ruby stone exploded. It turned into a golden light curtain of power, directly blocking the power of the black dragon claws. It was a given that he could block it, because this was the strongest power that could block the peak power of a supreme god-level powerhouse. As for the principle of the brilliant ruby stone, Kang Xinmu knew a little about it. There was always a lot of power in the void, and the brilliant ruby stone could completely release the defensive battle patterns of the Great Compassion Heavenly Dragon Seal, allowing these defensive battle patterns to absorb power from the void without limit until they reached the upper limit that these defensive battle patterns could withstand. In the current situation, that was equivalent to reaching the peak of the supreme god-level power. It could withstand an attack of this level. Therefore, the attack of the Black Dragon Demonic Beast Inheritor in front of him could not break through Kang Xinmu's defense at all. Moreover, Kang Xinmu also released the devouring power at the same time, continuously devouring the power of the opponent's Black Dragon claws. A part of it was blocked by the brilliant ruby stone, while the other part was devoured by Kang Xinmu. Then, the devoured power was directly transferred to the brilliant ruby stone, helping it recover its power. Then, the brilliant ruby stone could be used again. This was the most heaven-defying aspect of Kang Xinmu. His defense could almost be said to be invincible. Of course, this was also because the opponent's attack was just enough to balance Kang Xinmu. Chapter 4884. Currently, Kang Xinmu had a lot of monster elixirs and devil elixirs in reserve. He could easily absorb the lowest level monster elixir to offset the loss. Therefore, at least with the strength of the Black Dragon Goblin Inheritor's attack, he could not pose any threat to Kang Xinmu. Kang Xinmu could activate the power of the Brilliant Gemstone without limit. When Jiang Xinwu's Brilliant Ruby Stone was unfolded, the Black Dragon Goblin Inheritor and many practitioners who were watching the battle from the outside exclaimed in disbelief at the same time. This was the Brilliant Gemstone. Many people knew about the existence of the Brilliant Gemstone. Its defensive limit was far beyond one's own strength. Therefore, the Brilliant Gemstone was a kind of life-saving gemstone. After being transformed by the Brilliant Gemstone, the defensive dragon weapon was a life-saving measure in a desperate situation. This was relatively common in battles between transcendent gods, but, in battles between martial emperors, it was very rare. This was because many martial weapons that could be used by martial emperors didn't have strong defensive abilities. If they weren't top-notch, the Brilliant Glory Gemstone wouldn't be of much use. Not only was the limit of its resistance too low, but it was also mainly because the interval between its use was too long. Only top-notch dragon weapons could be used. It's the Brilliant Gemstone. I didn't expect this guy to have such a treasure. The Black Dragon Goblin Inheritor was not afraid. After all, according to everyone's understanding, even if it were to resist the all-out attack of an opponent of the same level, the brilliant gemstone would probably need 3 to 7 days to recover. This recovery time also determined that Kang Xinmu could not use the brilliant gemstone a second time in the arena battle. Wasn't it a waste to use the precious brilliant gemstone to resist the attack of the Black Dragon Goblin Inheritor? It could be seen that Kang Xinmu was at his wit's end. Even if you have the brilliant gemstone, so what? You should be desperate now. The Black Dragon Goblin Inheritor unleashed all his strength and continued to condense black dragon claws that could track. They swept towards the place where Kang Xinmu was. These black dragon claws almost tore the void apart, containing unparalleled destructive power. Kang Xinmu did not move in the face of this attack. But when the black dragon claws reached Kang Xinmu's great compassion dragon seal once again shone with golden light. Then, the power of the brilliant gem was released. The golden light barrier blocked the black dragon claws, and the devouring power devoured the black dragon claws from the side. Kang Xinmu then transferred the energy that he had devoured back to the brilliant gem. This scene caused the Black Dragon Demon Inheritor to be dumbfounded, and he stood rooted to the ground. What was going on? As long as Kang Xinmu had the ability to activate the brilliant gemstone without limit, he would not be able to do anything to Kang Xinmu. How could this lad activate the brilliant gemstone again so quickly? According to common sense, the activation of the brilliant gemstone needed at least 2 hours, and that was after blocking the power that did not pose a threat to him. Was the attack power of his tracking black dragon claws so weak? It could not make the power of the brilliant gemstone fall into a state of recovery and dormancy? Damn it, what's going on? The Black Dragon Demon Inheritor could not believe such an abnormal thing. Some of the surrounding cultivators who were observing also could not believe it. Even the supreme powerhouses had shifted their attention here. If this situation continued, the Black Dragon Demon Inheritor was almost bound to lose. As long as Kang Xinmu continued to defend, and with Kang Xinmu's nature-defying recovery ability, the Black Dragon Demon Inheritor would probably still be at his peak when all his power was used up. This was too terrifying. Such a terrifying defense made the Black Dragon Demon Inheritor despair. But, the Black Dragon Demon Inheritor immediately thought of a possibility. This lad might have used 2 brilliant gemstones on his defensive dragon weapon. Because there are 2 brilliant gemstones, the 2 brilliant gemstones can be used interchangeably. If they are used interchangeably, he can successfully confuse his opponent. The Black Dragon Demon Inheritor forced himself to calm down. Then, he planned to condense another Black Dragon Claw to test Kang Xinmu, but, before he could perform the demonic martial skill again, the power of Kang Xinmu's 9th layer ultimate dragon explosion had already sneaked up on him from the void and exploded beside his Black Dragon Demon body. The Black Dragon Demon Inheritor was stunned. In fact, Kang Xinmu's sneak attack this time was launched almost at the same time as his opponent's second attack. When Kang Xinmu unleashed the power of the brilliant gemstone for the second time, he had already activated the power of the illusory ghost book at the same time. With the power of concealment and void, he swept the power of the 9th layer ultimate dragon explosion to his opponent's back. Then, just as the Black Dragon Demon Inheritor finished analyzing and figured out that Kang Xinmu might have 2 brilliant gemstones, the power of the 9th layer ultimate dragon explosion erupted from behind him. The Black Dragon Demon Inheritor was completely unprepared and was directly attacked by the sneak attack. Fortunately, as a regular demonic cultivator, the Black Dragon Demon Inheritor's demonic body's defense was not weak. If this was a fierce battle outside, this sneak attack would not have caused the Black Dragon Demon Inheritor to lose. Unfortunately, this was an arena battle. Kang Xinmu's sudden attack of the 9th layer ultimate dragon explosion directly blasted the Black Dragon Demon Inheritor out of the arena. This Black Dragon Demon Inheritor had already attacked the arena twice before. This was the 3rd time and also the last time. In the end, he actually encountered Kong Shinmu and suffered a sneak attack from the brilliant gemstone and Kong Shinmu. He did not expect that his entire Black Dragon Demon Inheritor would be directly blasted out of the arena, and lose the right to continue participating in this arena battle. When the Black Dragon Demon Inheritor was blasted out of the arena, everyone present was in an uproar. This was too terrifying. Was Kong Shinmu's combat power really that strong? Even the Black Dragon Demon Inheritor was blasted out of the arena and lost his last chance to attack the arena. Speaking of which, when some people saw the Black Dragon Demon Inheritor on the arena, they thought that Kong Shinmu would lose to the Black Dragon Demon Inheritor. After all, the Black Dragon Demon Inheritor had directly injured Su Yi. Logically speaking, Kong Shinmu and Su Yi should be at the same level, right? But now, Kong Shinmu directly blasted the Black Dragon Demon Inheritor out of the arena. Unleashing the power of the brilliant ruby stone twice had truly shocked everyone in the surroundings. This was way too horrifying. It was simply going against all logic. Immediately, many people thought of the same possibility as the Black Dragon Demon Inheritor. However, no one knew what the truth was. Now, no one knew whether Kong Shinmu really had the brilliant gemstone of two brilliant gemstones. Although this kind of thing was relatively rare, it was still possible. Chapter 4885. After the Black Dragon Demon's Inheritor was blasted out of the arena by Kong Shinmu, no one came to challenge Kong Shinmu in a short period of time. This was because it seemed that Kong Shinmu still had a lot of hidden tricks up his sleeves. Before Kong Shinmu used all of his tricks, the second-tier level 9 Emperor stage experts didn't want to directly bump into Kong Shinmu's muzzle. As for the third-tier cultivators, even though they were all level 9 Emperor stage experts, there was still a huge gap between them. They couldn't even beat the Black Dragon Demon, let alone Kong Shinmu, who had blasted the Black Dragon Demon out of the arena, and now, on another arena, Murong Lieni saw this scene and smiled with some satisfaction as she shook her head. She originally wanted to wait for Kong Shinmu to come back and directly challenge her. Then, she would return this arena to Kong Shinmu. However, after Kong Shinmu came back, he didn't challenge her, but directly challenged another arena. He didn't accept her kindness. However, this was also the pride of a genius. Kong Shinmu was confident that he could keep his position in another arena, so he didn't need to return to this arena. This also saved Murong Lieni the number of times she had to attack the arena. After all, if she gave the arena under her feet to Kong Shinmu, she would have to find another arena to challenge. This meant that she had one less opportunity to attack the arena. Although for a top expert like her, one less opportunity to attack the arena didn't affect anything, it was better to save as much as possible. Who knew if there would be an accident later on? At this moment, no one came to challenge Kong Shinmu's arena. Murong Lieni, Huang Yun, and the others' arenas were also unchallenged. Almost among the 16 arenas, only about half of the arenas were still fiercely fighting. This included Su Ye's arena. The Black Dragon Demon's Inheritor had a brother. When he saw that the Black Dragon Demon was blasted out of the stage by Kong Shinmu, he immediately went to Su Ye's stage to challenge him. His brother's strength was about the same as the Black Dragon Demon's Inheritor, but when he fought with Su Yi, he was actually suppressed by Su Yi. One had to know that Su Yi was seriously injured by the Black Dragon Demon Inheritor. How did he become so much stronger in such a short time? He might even have become twice as strong as before. This was because Su Yi had received Kong Shinmu's guidance after she was seriously injured. Her strength had also been consolidated, which made Su Ye's overall combat strength double than before. This was already not too much. This also allowed Su Yi to blast the Black Dragon Demon Inheritor's brother out of the arena once again. Among the 16 arenas, Jiang Shenwu and Su Ye's arenas had actually quietened down. This undoubtedly shocked everyone in the surroundings. No one had expected that no one would dare to challenge a 6th-layer martial emperor and a 7th-layer martial emperor. However, it had to be said that Kang Xinmu and Su Ye's battle strength was extremely strong. Soon, when there were only 2 hours left, Shangguan Dai, Tan Shoujua, Chu Yueqiang, and the other 9th-level emperor stage martial emperors of the 2nd tier all attacked the arenas. There were a total of over 100 2nd-tier martial emperors. Each of them was about as strong as Shangguan Dai, and the others. Among them, there were about 10 or so martial emperors from each of the major clans. The Black Dragon Demon's inheritor and his brother were 2 of them. Unfortunately, one was blasted out of the arena by Kang Xinmu and lost his chance. The other was blasted out of the arena by Su Yi and also lost his chance to continue attacking. Some people had already used up their 3 chances to attack the arena. They had been enjoying themselves for a moment, showing off their prowess on the arena. In the end, they were beaten down by a stronger opponent and wasted their chances to attack the arena. Now, they no longer had a chance, and there was nothing they could do about it. Who asked them to be so arrogant? Moreover, they were confident. The Black Dragon Demon's inheritor originally thought that his strength was enough to make him one of the final 16. Therefore, he directly challenged Kang Xinmu and planned to defend the arena until the end. Unfortunately, he was directly blasted out by Kang Xinmu. There was no need to mention how angry this fellow was. He wanted nothing more than to tear Kang Xinmu into pieces. However, he was the one who attacked Kang Xinmu. Who could he blame if he couldn't beat Kang Xinmu? Time continued to pass. Many people didn't even make a move in the first 3 days, but in the last 2 hours, they jumped out and specifically chose weaker opponents to fight in the arena. As for Kang Xinmu, he finally met a new opponent. First, it was a powerhouse from the Sea God tribe, and then a powerhouse from the Devil King tribe. Unfortunately, the strength of these 2 powerhouses was similar to that of the Black Dragon Demon's inheritor. Although they were very strong, Kang Xinmu still used all kinds of methods to blast them out of the arena. Kang Xinmu didn't continue to use any more powerful methods. He didn't use the brilliant gem, nor did he use the heaven-deficient demonic dragon of ice and fire. He purely relied on his devouring power to exhaust his opponent to death. His opponent didn't have the ability to track and attack like the Black Dragon Demon's inheritor. Kang Xinmu directly dodged on the arena. When his opponent's strength was almost exhausted, he directly attacked and blasted his opponent out of the arena. Although no special methods could be seen, Kang Xinmu's performance in these 2 battles was very stable. It was equivalent to fighting steadily and surely, not giving anyone the opportunity to see how many abilities he had left. There was no doubt that no one could figure out his situation. Now, the 5 peak 9th-level Emperor Realm powerhouses, including Huang Yun and Murong Lieni, each occupied an arena and didn't enter the arena. They were paying attention to their surroundings, but none of them wanted to attack Kang Xinmu and Su Yi. In their eyes, opponents were only at the same level. For example, Huang Yun and Murong Lieni had a certain degree of antagonism and competition between them. The super powerhouses of the other 3 races were the same. Therefore, they really didn't care about Kang Xinmu and Su Yi. Even if they directly came up and knocked Kang Xinmu and Su Yi out of the arena, it was only their 2nd time attacking the arena. They still had one more chance. Therefore, it was almost useless for them to knock Kang Xinmu and Su Yi out of the arena. Moreover, even if they entered the elimination round of the arena battles, they basically posed no threat to the 5 of them. At least, that was the case for now. The gap between the 5 of them was too big. Of course, some people had already noticed that Kang Xinmu had used the brilliant gem twice. If they wanted to attack Kang Xinmu and Kang Xinmu used the brilliant gem, they wouldn't be able to break through Kang Xinmu's defense. Chapter 4886. Under various adjustments, no one came to challenge Kang Xinmu. Kang Xinmu had already defeated 3 second-grade level 9 Emperor stage experts. For the other second-grade level 9 Emperor stage experts, he was considered a relatively strong opponent. Moreover, they did not know Kang Xinmu's current strength, so they did not dare to challenge Kang Xinmu. Rather than challenging Jiang Xinwu, it would be better to challenge the other arenas. Although they seemed to be quite strong, it would be better to challenge the guys who knew each other well. Moreover, some of these guys' strength had already been consumed, so the possibility of winning the challenge was not low. Therefore, Kang Xinmu and Su Ye's arenas were empty for a while, until there was only half an hour left. Some of the second-tier 9th-level Emperor Realm experts felt that they wouldn't be able to seize the opportunity to challenge the other arenas. After all, there were a lot of people eyeing the arenas that seemed easy to challenge. Not everyone had the opportunity to challenge them. Therefore, for the last chance, someone finally came to Kang Xinmu and Su Ye's arena. This was nothing to Kang Xinmu. As long as it was an opponent of the same level, they would not be able to deplete his strength one by one. Now, with the help of his devouring power, he could be said to be invincible among those of the same level. Either he crushed Kang Xinmu or he was defeated by Kang Xinmu's devouring power. There were only two possibilities. After all, Kang Xinmu's current comprehensive combat ability was extremely strong. He could deal with all kinds of possible situations. In the end, 2 second-grade experts appeared in front of Kang Xinmu. The first was an expert from the Star God clan. This expert from the Star God clan was proficient in the art of taming beasts. He actually commanded several star beasts to attack Jiang Xinwu. Unfortunately, the strength of these star beasts was not very high. Basically, they were a level weaker than the Black Dragon Demon Inheritor. Therefore, Kang Xinmu did not need to use the power of the brilliant ruby stone. Instead, he used his physical body and the power of the Great Compassion Dragon Seal to block the attacks of the star beasts. He also devoured a lot of power of different attributes from the star beasts. Finally, when the time for an incense stick to burn was almost up, Kang Xinmu directly used his perception of the void energy to find the hidden expert of the Star Divinity clan. There was no doubt that the expert from the Star Divinity clan had hidden himself as soon as he entered the arena, allowing the Star Beast to fight against Kang Xinmu. However, his whereabouts had always been seen by Kang Xinmu. Kang Xinmu's perception was just too strong. After all, he had almost completely merged with the Nightmare Ink Beast. No matter if it was his concealment ability or his ability to sense and hide, they were far superior to normal Xiaofan. When that expert from the Star God clan was blasted out of the arena by Kang Xinmu, she was still somewhat shocked and in disbelief. She was incomparably puzzled. Kang Xinmu seemed to know where she was all along. However, if that was the case, why did he waste time entangling with the star beasts that she had summoned? Wouldn't it be better if he directly dealt with her? How would she know that Kang Xinmu wanted to devour more power of different attributes to strengthen his own resistance against different attributes? Therefore, this expert from the Star God clan also left the arena with a grievance. Following closely behind, the last person to arrive at the arena where Kang Xinmu was at was another expert from the Sea God clan. However, he was an expert from the Crab clan. His combat attributes were different from the experts from the Shrimp clan, Mighty Heaven, and the expert from the Turtle clan. This expert from the Crab clan mainly used more fierce techniques and had a fighting style similar to that of a fierce warrior. Kang Xinmu even felt a lot of pressure. The power of his martial arts attack might not be very great, but the frequency of his attack was extremely high and the speed of his attack was extremely fast. This guy maintained a high frequency of attacks. These martial arts consumed very little of his body's energy, but under the continuous attacks, it gave people a feeling of being unable to breathe. Even the power of the opponent's attack was condensed together to attack the same place. Even with Kang Xinmu's current defense, he felt as if it was being blasted apart by the opponent's continuous attacks. Strong, very strong. This expert from the Crab clan of the Sea God clan had an extremely strong combat ability. Moreover, in the midst of his continuous attacks, Kang Shinmu felt that the surrounding void was actually being continuously condensed by the opponent's attacks. The constantly condensing void made it so that Kang Shinmu could not even use the wind shadow flowing cloud flash to evade it. After all, Kang Shinmu had not broken through the wind shadow flowing cloud flash to the extreme saint realm. If he had reached the extreme saint realm, he would be able to directly use the wind shadow flowing cloud flash regardless of the surrounding environment. Unfortunately, the current Kang Shinmu was still a little far from this level. After all, the time he had been in contact with the void attribute power was still too short. The expert from the Crab clan of the Sea God clan continued to erupt with continuous attacks, even causing Kang Shinmu's black dragon body to be continuously blasted back. However, Kang Shinmu maintained the rhythm of retreating, not allowing himself to be blasted out of the range of the arena. Instead, he constantly circled around the arena. As the opponent continued to attack, the dragon scales on Kang Shinmu's black dragon body were even broken, dripping with blood, and countless wounds were blasted out. The martial arts technique used by the expert from the Crab clan of the Sea God clan was the combat martial arts technique of the Sea God clan. Due to the high frequency and speed of the attacks, an existence at the level of Kang Shinmu could not rely on pure defense to resist. Moreover, the more the opponent attacked, the more destructive the power was. After accumulating attacks for the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, the attacks of the expert from the Crab clan of the Sea God clan had reached their peak. His attack power was so great that Kang Shinmu could no longer rely on his own body's defense to block it. However, Kang Shinmu did not directly use the power of the brilliant ruby stone. While the opponent was madly attacking, Kang Shinmu quietly used the power of the Phantom Ghost Book and condensed the power of the heavenly deficient demonic dragon of ice and fire. With a flash, he appeared behind the opponent. This part of the heavenly deficient demonic dragon of ice and fire's power directly began to devour the opponent's time from behind. This technique appeared again. When everyone had somewhat overlooked this technique of Kang Shinmu's, Kang Shinmu used it again. This time, it was when the opponent attacked wildly and neglected his defense. In reality, the opponent's physical defense was very strong. Even if Kang Shinmu's sneak attacked with the 9th stage Extreme Dragon Explosion, he would not be able to hurt the opponent. However, the power of the heavenly deficient demonic dragon of ice and fire was an exception. As Kang Shinmu devoured the opponent's time, the opponent's figure became completely still in front of him. Then, Kang Shinmu did not have the mood to attack the opponent during this period of time. Because just now was the best opportunity for him to sneak attack. If he had been any later, the time it takes for an incense stick to burn would be up, and the final moment of the arena battle would be coming soon. Therefore, he had to throw the opponent out of the arena as soon as possible. While the opponent was unable to move, Kang Shinmu unleashed the 9th stage Extreme Dragon Explosion 3 times in a row and blasted the opponent's Sea God Phantom out of the arena. Even though the opponent's time had been devoured and he could not move at all, Kang Shinmu still found it difficult to do this. This was because the opponent's physical defense was very strong. In a head-on fight, Kang Shinmu had no way of penetrating the opponent's defense unless he bombarded the opponent for several days like before. Chapter 4887. Finally. The last 16 seats in the arena battle were finally determined. Kang Shinmu and Su Yi were both among them. It was not that no one wanted to fight them, but those who wanted to fight them failed to occupy the arena in the end. Of the hundreds of second-class level 9 Emperor stage practitioners, only 9 were still standing in the arena. The other 5 were peak experts, including Huang Yun and Murong Lieni, as well as Kang Shinmu and Su Yi. What surprised Kang Shinmu was that he did not expect Lin Xiaotian, the boundless banded demon god of the demon god clan, to be among them. He was one of the final victors of the second class. Lin Xiaotian's combat power was not considered high, but his boundless banded demon god's most powerful skill was not in a head-on battle. It was sinister sneak attacks. Kang Xinmu defeated Lin Xiaotian before because Lin Xiaotian did not use any sneak attacks at all, so he lost to Kang Xinmu. This was also intentional. After all, it was to allow Kang Xinmu to consolidate his strength. Most of his real combat power was concentrated in sneak attacks. Didn't you see that now that the final moment had arrived, there were many experts of various races around Lin Xiaotian's arena constantly cursing at him? Obviously, Lin Xiaotian's fighting style was quite despicable. But this was normal. Otherwise, how could he be qualified to be the inheritor of the boundless banded demon god? The final 16 contestants were determined. On the side of the Dragon God clan, the result was not optimistic. In the end, including Kang Xinmu, there were only 2 people left in the arena. The other person was even seriously injured. That was Chu Yueqiang. This time, all the participants in the arena battle were the strongest experts of the 9th level of the Emperor stage. Even Shengguan Dai did not make it to the final 16. Moreover, Kang Xinmu noticed that she was seriously injured 2 hours ago and could no longer fight in the arena. This made Kang Xinmu feel quite emotional. This was a real competition. There were many experts from various races, unlike the 4th level Emperor stage battle where they were stuck at the 4th level. Of course, many of them could advance. Of course, if this kind of arena battle took place after a certain time, when Xiao Bai and the others reached the 9th level of the Emperor stage, maybe Xiao Bai and the others would be at the same level as Huang Yun and Murong Liani. Unfortunately, the current accumulation of the Dragon God clan was too little. Chu Yueqiang possessed the power of the ice attribute. Although she was still on the stage, she had already suffered serious injuries. She was only relying on her willpower to support herself. Finally, at the last moment, she stopped. If she had been half an hour late, she would probably have lost her place. As for Shengguan Dai and Tan Shoujue, because of this, they lost the chance to win in the end. There were also some old fellows from other secluded dragon martial artist clans who failed to leave their mark in this arena battle. This was the reason why Shengguan Dai and Tan Shoujue lost the chance to win. But Kang Xinmu was a pleasant surprise. If the 2 of them were not still standing in the arena, they would have been wiped out. On the side of the Dragon God clan, Chu Yueqiang was in danger and was on the verge of being kicked out of the arena. But Kang Xinmu was a pleasant surprise. If the 2 of them were not still standing in the arena, they would have been wiped out. According to the statistics, Kang Xinmu defeated the most opponents in the arena this time. Su Yi is second only to him. Maybe it's because they look easy to bully. Huang Yun, Murong Liani, and the others look too strong, and no one dares to challenge them. Yes, this Kang Xinmu is amazing. He actually won first place in the 4th level of the Emperor stage for the longest time, and now he also won first place in the number of opponents defeated. How much benefit has this brought to the Dragon God clan? In the arena, many supreme experts were calculating and communicating in private. In their eyes, Kang Xinmu had become a super genius of the Dragon God clan, and it was not the time for him to break out. It was these 2 arena battles that made Kang Xinmu stand out. But there was still a long way to go before Kang Xinmu could really bring substantial benefits to the Dragon God clan, except for the 9 engraved heavenly and earthly holy item. Because Kang Xinmu's current strength was not very strong. He could reach the 9th level of the Emperor stage. At that time, he would be the strongest existence under the Supreme God realm. Even at that time, Kang Xinmu could compete with the Supreme God realm masters. Just like Huang Yun and Murong Liani, he might be stronger than them. Everything was unknown. But now, the combat strength that Kang Xinmu showed already showed signs of this, and it even included Su Yi. Su Yi was an expert of the Demon God clan. In this arena battle, there seemed to be some collusion between the Demon God clan and the Dragon God clan. But this collusion was nothing. What really caught everyone's attention was that Su Ye's combat strength had skyrocketed after recovering from his serious injuries. This was very suspicious. Why? What made Su Ye's combat strength increase so much? No one thought that it was Kong Shinmu. After all, Kong Shinmu was a member of the Dragon God clan. At most, he only healed Su Yi. How could Su Ye's combat strength increase? This was a fundamental enhancement, and it was an enhancement in the details. Using the details to drive the whole was not something that ordinary people could do. Unfortunately, in everyone's guess, Su Ye's increase in strength had nothing to do with Kong Shinmu. Only the supreme experts of the Demon God clan knew the inside story. Emperor Shi's mystical dragon, Yu Yaji, and the others had also roughly guessed that it might have something to do with their return to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy office and the spar with Kong Shinmu. But they also did not know what exactly was going on. But they did not ask. After all, there was no need to do so. After all, Kong Shinmu was from the Dragon God clan. This could not be changed. Therefore, they and the Demon God clan only had a cooperative relationship. It was impossible for them to have any other deeper relationship. No one thought that Kong Shinmu had two kinds of inheritance from two sides at the same time. In fact, it was not two, but three, for, now, the inheritance of the heavenly deficient demonic dragon of ice and fire was something that others had not realized yet. Or rather, they had not thought of it at all. This was also a kind of inheritance. It was just that there was no race that had obtained this kind of inheritance. That was why others did not think of it. The 16 contestants for the arena battle have been determined. All parties will rest for 4 hours. After 4 hours, the elimination battle will begin. Following the announcement of the supreme experts of the various races, the experts in the arena left one after another. Su Ye's injuries were not serious, so Kong Shinmu only nodded slightly at her and ignored her. Instead, he flew to the arena where Chu Yueqiang was. Chapter 4888. Seeing that Chu Yueqiang was seriously injured, Kong Shinmu naturally had to go over to help. Right now, all the experts had already dispersed. Many people were injured, but Chu Yueqiang was the one with the heaviest injuries. It could not be said that her strength was the weakest, but it was very likely that her opponent was the strongest. In fact, as long as it was the second-tier 9th level Emperor stage experts, there was little difference in strength between them. Who could stay in the arena in the end depended mainly on luck. After all, some people's abilities could restrain their opponents, while others' abilities could be restrained by others. The opponent you met almost determined whether or not you could stay in the arena. And the opponent Chu Yueqiang met was considered extremely strong among the second-tier 9th level Emperor stage experts. Moreover, their abilities faintly restrained her, so it was already very amazing that she could stay in the arena and blast her opponent out. Right now, the experts of each clan were dispersing and resting. However, Chu Yueqiang was heavily injured, and could not move at all. If nothing unexpected happened, she would most likely be like the previous arena battle, unable to participate in the elimination round, and then directly placed in the 16th or 8th place. But now, Kong Shinmu was flying towards her. On the arena, other people couldn't go up, but Kong Shinmu could. He transformed into a black dragon and approached Chu Yueqiang. In the past, this seemingly cold teacher Dragon Emperor had helped Kong Shinmu a lot. During the Yen Dragon Emperor dynasty, she had helped him repel several invading Dragon Emperor kingdom. The Dragon Emperor was Kong Shinmu's benefactor. Now it was Kong Shinmu's turn to help her. The devouring power began to devour the demon core and devil core in her body, and then condensed into the richest life essence, which was transferred to Chu Yueqiang's ice dragon body. Gradually, Chu Yueqiang's serious injuries began to recover, and many people watching this scene felt a little scared. What kind of terrifying healing ability was this? If this appeared on the battlefield, in the process of exploring ruins, who could fight against Kang Xinmu? Perhaps in the future, when exploring intermediate ruins, whoever could join hands with Kang Xinmu would be able to obtain the most benefits. Thinking back to the incident at the elementary ruins, anyone who went against Kang Xinmu, including the supposedly invincible the evil prince, was killed and his heaven and earth saint item was taken away. It could be said that many people now attached great importance to Kang Xinmu. The main reason was the demon gods. The demon gods had been fighting against Kang Xinmu for a long time. Although they belonged to different departments, Kang Xinmu was already a great enemy of the demon gods. It was a pity that there was no demon god among the 5 pinnacle experts. Otherwise, the demon gods would definitely have sent their pinnacle expert to deal with Kang Xinmu. They might even have tried to kill Kang Xinmu in the arena. The Black Dragon Demon Inheritor had come for this, but unfortunately, he couldn't do anything to Kang Xinmu. Instead, he was blasted out of the arena by Kang Xinmu and lost his chance. This time, out of the hundreds of second-grade 9th-level Emperor experts, only 9 stood in the arena. It could be said that the remaining 90% of the experts had failed due to various reasons. Either they didn't get the chance to challenge the arena, or they used up all 3 chances and couldn't occupy an arena. For example, the Black Dragon Demon Inheritor. These people had made some mistakes in their judgment or strength, and they were all vexed. As for Shengguan Dai, and Tan Shoujua, they were blasted out of the arena and didn't get the chance to fight again. Each of them still had the chance to challenge. Unfortunately, the competition before the final moment was too fierce, and they didn't get the chance to challenge again. At this moment, in the arena, Kang Xinmu was healing Chu Yueqiang. Originally, Chu Yueqiang couldn't even open her eyes. But soon, the life force in her body was recovering, and she was full of energy again. She deactivated her divine dragon form and stood up in front of Kang Xinmu's pitch-black divine dragon body. Her heart was filled with emotions. Who would have thought that the young dragon warrior student she had been teaching was such a genius? He was almost catching up to her in such a short time. Kang Xinmu. Thank you. Chu Yueqiang's mouth twitched. You're welcome. Teacher, although you have just recovered from your serious injuries, your strength has not recovered. I will take you back to rest first. Kang Xinmu nodded at her, then let her sit on the back of his divine dragon body. Then he flew her back to the dragon god spectator stand. Chu Yueqiang was the Dragon Emperor's teacher at Donghuang Yangwu College, and also the subordinate of the Dragon God of Calamity. When she was seriously injured, the Dragon God of Calamity was very upset. But now, seeing that Kang Xinmu had helped her recover, and the relationship between them seemed to be quite close, he even let a girl sit on the dragon's back. This made the Dragon God of Calamity feel quite happy. Although Kang Xinmu belonged to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts College, or rather, the Holy Lands of 5 Extremes Dark Ice, if Chu Yueqiang could maintain a relationship with him, or even have that kind of relationship, wouldn't it be excellent? This was equivalent to a political marriage. But soon, the Dragon God of Calamity thought of something. Chu Yueqiang was the Dragon Emperor's teacher, and it seemed that she was the teacher of Kang Xinmu before he left Donghuang Yangwu College. With this relationship, there would probably be some gap between them, wouldn't there? It might not be appropriate to say that there was a gap, but there would definitely be a gap between them. Therefore, the Dragon God of Calamity began to think of a way. Soon, 4 hours had passed. Kang Xinmu was ready for the final battle, and Chu Yueqiang had also taken the powerful recovery elixir given by the Dragon God of Calamity within these 4 hours, and her strength had completely recovered. She could enter the arena in her best condition. Next, it was time to draw lots. In the draw lots, the opponent they got in the first round would almost determine whether they could become one of the top 10. Only by becoming one of the top 10 would they gain more. Otherwise, it would be the same as not participating in the arena battle. After all, if they didn't enter the top 10, even if they became one of the top 16, they would only receive a small consolation prize. For Kang Xinmu, this consolation prize was unnecessary. His goal was to enter the top 4. This was a situation where his luck was relatively good. It all depended on when he would encounter opponents at the level of Huang Yun and Murong Liani. And Kang Xinmu's luck had always been relatively good. The results of the draw were out very quickly. Chu Yueqiang was facing off against another expert from the Sea God tribe's second class, while Jiang Shenwu was facing off against a second-class expert from the Demon God tribe. Neither of them faced off against Huang Yun and Murong Liani's group. Su Yi, on the other hand, directly faced a peak expert from the Talisman Water tribe. This caused Su Yi, who was watching from the spectator stand, to have a serious expression. Chapter 48-89. First up was Chu Yueqiang's turn. This time, Chu Yueqiang fought against the second-tier powerhouse of the Oceanic God tribe. Both sides were about the same in terms of strength, and there wasn't any obvious restraint. After a fierce battle, Chu Yueqiang won by a small margin. Both sides were injured, but Chu Yueqiang's injuries were relatively light. Hence, after the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Chu Yueqiang won. However, even though her injuries were light, she lost the ability to fight again. Hence, Kang Xinmu had no choice but to appear again. He went to the arena to treat Chu Yueqiang's injuries and brought her back again. This made Chu Yueqiang feel rather embarrassed. This was the second time. She sat on the back of Kang Xinmu's black dragon body and sighed with emotion again. Next up was Su Ye's battle against the Talisman Water tribe's pinnacle powerhouse. This was a battle that Kang Xinmu attached great importance to. To be honest, his current combat strength was about the same as Su Ye's. Of course, if he didn't use any special techniques, it should be about the same. Hence, the outcome of Su Ye's battle against the Talisman Water tribe's pinnacle powerhouse would very likely determine the outcome of the battle between Kang Xinmu and the pinnacle powerhouse. Very quickly, Kang Xinmu discovered that Su Yi actually had the ability to fight against the pinnacle powerhouse. Most importantly, Su Ye's inherited blood essence was 2 levels lower than theirs. Apart from this, there wasn't much difference between Su Yi and the pinnacle powerhouse in other aspects. Moreover, Su Yi had only just consolidated her 7th-level martial emperor power. Compared to an opponent who had been stuck at the 9th-level martial emperor for a long time, she was naturally at a significant disadvantage. Even so, after receiving guidance from Kang Xinmu, Su Ye's combat strength had skyrocketed. This allowed her to fight against the pinnacle powerhouse of the Talisman Water tribe. She wasn't crushed. This time, the pinnacle powerhouse of the Talisman Water tribe wouldn't go easy on Su Yi. He immediately used the strongest Talisman Water tribe's combat soldiers. The use of these combat soldiers allowed him to unleash his strongest power. The entire arena was filled with water attribute power that surged and roared wildly. This caused Su Yi to be like a small boat in a tsunami that could capsize at any time. However, Su Ye's strength wasn't weak. Under such a terrifying attack, he actually persisted for the time it took for an incense stick to burn. Although Su Yi didn't have a chance to counterattack, she wasn't defeated either. However, the rules of the arena battle were as such. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, she hadn't even touched the Talisman Water tribe's peak expert. Instead, she had suffered some light injuries. This meant that she could only be considered to have been defeated. She had lost the first victory in the elimination battle. Now, Su Yi could only consider whether she could get 9th or 10th place in the end. If Su Yi could get the 9th or 10th place, it would be easier for her to accept the result. After all, her original goal was to become one of the final 16. She could only get the 9th or 10th place after receiving guidance from Kang Xinmu. Her estimation of her strength was relatively accurate. Unfortunately, her luck wasn't too good. Otherwise, she might have advanced to the top 8. Next, it was Kang Xinmu's turn to fight. His opponent was a second-class powerhouse of the demon god tribe. To Kang Xinmu, this powerhouse wasn't considered a powerhouse at all. This was because this fellow was already seriously injured. He had been seriously injured during the battle for the arena battle and had yet to fully recover. Apart from Kang Xinmu's heaven-defying healing ability, who else could recover from such a heavy injury in such a short time? It was impossible. Therefore, Kang Xinmu's opponent was only a 9th stage second-class Emperor stage cultivator who had yet to recover from his serious injuries. This demon god powerhouse had no way of resisting Kang Xinmu. He couldn't even display half of his strength as he was directly blocked by Kang Xinmu's defense. He couldn't even break through Kang Xinmu's defense. Not to mention seriously injuring Kang Xinmu, even if Kang Xinmu didn't move and let the opponent attack, the opponent wouldn't be able to break through Kang Xinmu's physical defense. He wouldn't be able to injure Kang Xinmu in the slightest. Therefore, Kang Xinmu quickly blasted this fellow out of the arena. About 4 hours later, the first round of 8 battles was completely over. Kang Xinmu and Chu Yueqiang were both in the top 8. However, it was time to draw lots again. This time, the lot drawing was more important. Among the remaining 8 people, apart from Kang Xinmu and Chu Yueqiang, there was only one second-class cultivator left. That cultivator was from the virtual human tribe. Apart from that, they were all peak experts at the level of Huang Yun and Murong Liani. It would be extremely difficult to win the next round and advance to the top 4. Kang Xinmu wasn't very confident. After all, he didn't know how long the brilliant ruby stone would remain dormant in order to resist such an opponent's attack. He also didn't know if his devouring power could quickly restore the brilliant ruby stone's ability. Everything was unknown. He would only know after fighting. It was true that Kang Xinmu had some other hidden tricks up his sleeves. However, he hadn't used them yet. He also didn't intend to use them all in the arena battles. He absolutely could not allow his strength to be completely seen through by others. Of course, if it was for the sake of ranking, Kang Xinmu was still certain that he would use his trump cards. He was afraid that those trump cards would be useless even if he used them. No matter what, Kang Xinmu was more nervous now. The next opponent would decide everything. Soon, the results of the lot drawing were out. Kang Xinmu versus Murong Liani. Chu Yueqiang versus the second-class virtual human tribe cultivator. Huang Yun was fighting against the Fu Shui peak expert who defeated Su Yi. The other 2 peak experts were also fighting against each other. This was a lot drawing. Therefore, although it wasn't very fair to the peak experts, they could only accept it. Chu Yueqiang, do your best. You might be able to enter the top 4 this time. Kang Xinmu should be dead by now. It's impossible for him to defeat Murong Liani. However, you, Chu Yueqiang, might be able to enter the top 4. This was because Chu Yueqiang's opponent was the weakest. Of course, to Chu Yueqiang's opponent, Chu Yueqiang was also the best opponent among the 7 people. Both Chu Yueqiang and the virtual human tribe expert were rubbing their palms together. They wanted to win the next battle. As expected, the first battle was between Chu Yueqiang and the virtual human tribe expert. After entering the arena, Chu Yueqiang's advantage was simply too great. This was because Kang Xinmu had completely healed Chu Yueqiang's injuries and restored her strength. On the other hand, the virtual human tribe expert was injured. The virtual human tribe expert hadn't been in good shape when he was guarding the arena. In the previous round of 16, he had used up more than half of his strength. Although his strength had been restored, his injuries hadn't healed yet. Chapter 48-90. No one would have thought that Chu Yueqiang would be severely injured and even lose the ability to fight in the arena. Yet, she was able to run out of the arena alive and well. This was all because of Kang Xinmu. When Chu Yueqiang was at her peak condition, she directly crushed the virtual human tribe powerhouse. If both sides were at their peak condition, the virtual human tribe powerhouse might not necessarily lose. After all, he had many tricks up his sleeves. However, the virtual human tribe powerhouse was struggling at death's door. After all, he had not fully recovered from his injuries. To Chu Yueqiang, even if she just kept defending, even if there were no results within the time it took for a joss stick to burn, Chu Yueqiang could still win. This was because the opponent was already injured. Chu Yueqiang did not need to fight recklessly. Chu Yueqiang did not want to clash head-on with the other party. The other party was simply too nimble. Although he was injured, the other party's comprehension of the void was not something that Chu Yueqiang could keep up with. Therefore, Chu Yueqiang was eventually attacked by the opponent and injured. After all, the opponent was not a super powerful existence like Kang Xinmu. The current Chu Yueqiang's battle strength could be said to be inferior to Kang Xinmu. Therefore, it was completely normal for her to be injured in this kind of battle. However, she quickly reacted and took advantage of the moment when the opponent attacked to counterattack. Although the opponent injured Chu Yueqiang's ice attack was even stronger. She directly blasted the opponent from half-injured to heavily injured. Terrifying power continuously exploded in the arena. Every time the opponent attacked, Chu Yueqiang was able to find an opening to counterattack. This was the ability to defend and counterattack. Although Chu Yueqiang was not as agile as the opponent, she was able to keep her opponent at a disadvantage. In the end, Chu Yueqiang was seriously injured again. As for the virtual human tribe powerhouse, he was seriously injured and on the verge of death. After the time it took for a joss stick to burn, Chu Yueqiang was declared the winner. There was no doubt that Chu Yueqiang had entered the top 4. This was something that Chu Yueqiang had never imagined. For a moment, a faint blush appeared on her originally cold face. Even though she was seriously injured, she still seemed to be in a good mood. Of course, anyone would be in a good mood at a time like this. However, she was seriously injured again, thus, Kang Xinmu had to step in and heal her on the stage. Then, he had her sit on his black dragon body and fly back. This was the 3rd time. As Dragon Emperor's mentor, Chu Yueqiang couldn't help but blush. This was truly too shameful. To think that Kang Xinmu had saved her from serious injuries 3 times. Without a doubt, it was all thanks to Kang Xinmu that she was able to enter the semi-finals. But Kang Xinmu himself, because of Murong Lieni, might not be able to break into the top 4, no matter what, all she had to do now was to watch the battle. If there were no accidents, it would be impossible for Chu Yueqiang to be in the top 2. Top 4 was already the best result. Even in the top 4, she was the weakest. It was very likely that she would be in 4th place, not 3rd. After all, her next opponents were people like Huang Yun and Murong Lieni. Soon, Kang Xinmu appeared on the stage. Once again, he faced the ancient Phoenix clan's peak level 9 Emperor Realm powerhouse, Murong Lieni. We meet again. Murong Lieni squinted her eyes, her beautiful face filled with curiosity. Kang Xinmu, I saw your previous battle and realized that you didn't use your full strength. I'm afraid that even I am not your opponent. This was called showing weakness to the enemy, making them lower their guard, or making them arrogant. Then, they would make mistakes due to carelessness. But how could Kang Xinmu be such a person? He also smiled and said, not at all, not at all. Sister Murong, your strength far surpasses mine. I am not your opponent. I came on stage to see how big the gap between me and you is. Otherwise, I would have just admitted defeat. You are such a slippery little girl. Murong Lieni obviously wouldn't be fooled by this, sister. Although she admired Kong Shinmu very much, and even wanted to cooperate with him, she had to win this battle. Her goal was to be the champion. Of course, she also looked down on Kong Shinmu. So, she planned to use all her strength to attack Kong Shinmu, and throw Kong Shinmu out of the stage as fast as possible. Last time when she fought against Kong Shinmu, she didn't use her ancient Phoenix clan's top-grade weapons. But this time, she decided to use them directly. Immediately, her two top-grade heaven-ranked combat weapons appeared by her side. They were two fan-like combat weapons, burning with endless flames. As she transformed into the form of a fiery phoenix, the temperature of the entire area suddenly rose, and even the void began to distort due to the high temperature. Her strength was too strong. Then, a beam of fire suddenly burst out and shot towards Kong Shinmu at an unimaginable speed. Moreover, in the situation where the sky was filled with flames, Kong Shinmu felt that the void was burned and sealed, and he couldn't use the sunset blade flash. This made Kong Shinmu a little depressed. It seemed that he needed to break through the sunset blade flash to the extreme saint realm as soon as possible. All of this depended on Shengguan Dai. When the time came, he would definitely learn from her. At this time, Kong Shinmu was facing his opponent's concentrated attack, and he couldn't dodge it. There was only one way left. Brilliant Ruby. The golden light curtain of the brilliant ruby appeared in front of Kong Shinmu once again. At the same time, Kong Shinmu's swallowing power spread out, constantly swallowing the power of the surrounding flames. The golden light curtain of the brilliant ruby unfolded and blocked the bombardment of Murong Lieni's fire beam, completely blocking it. The limit of the brilliant ruby was that it could withstand the full attack of a supreme god peak expert, so it was far from its limit. However, Murong Lieni's strongest attack bombarded the golden light curtain of the brilliant ruby, causing Kong Shinmu's brilliant ruby to fall into a state of silence for 2 months. If he wanted to restore it, he would probably have to swallow 3 attacks from his opponent. This was what Kong Shinmu was worried about. The brilliant ruby could not be used indefinitely. After all, the strength of the opponent's attack was much stronger than that of the Black Dragon Demon's inheritor. Therefore, Kong Shinmu had no choice but to consider other means. Fortunately, his Phantom Ghost book had also undergone other aspects of brilliance. At this moment, he finally activated another brilliance ability of the Phantom Ghost book, the brilliance ability of the Brilliant Ruby of Nothingness. The Brilliant Ruby of Nothingness could rely on its perception of the power of the void, and in combination with the void battle runes on the dragon weapon, to determine the increase in power. Chapter 4891. There was no doubt that the Rose Stone of Nothingness was not widely used. Because it could only dazzle attack-type battle soldiers, and it needed battle soldiers with void battle runes. Moreover, the number of void battle runes could not be too small, or else it would not be able to display its full power. This was a powerful rose stone that could absorb energy from the void. It was a perfect match for the heaven-grade divine spiritual dragon artifact, the Illusory Ghost Tome. The Illusory Ghost Tome had 240 void battle runes. Combined with the user's comprehension of void energy, it could absorb a large amount of energy from the void to strengthen the user's offensive power. Kong Shinmu directly activated the ability of the Rose Stone of Nothingness, and then used the 9th stage Ultimate Roaring Dragon Explosion. A terrifying power directly burst out from Murong Lieni's side. This time, the 9th stage Ultimate Roaring Dragon Explosion was almost 5 times stronger than Kong Shinmu's attack at his peak. This was the effect of the Rose Stone of Nothingness. Of course, the key was that there were many void battle runes in the Phantom Ghost book, and Kong Shinmu's perception of void power had almost reached the peak of the Emperor rank. Therefore, the Rose Stone of Nothingness could directly absorb more than 4 times the power from the void, and increase the lethality of the initial attack by more than 5 times. Moreover, as Kang Shinmu's understanding of void power increased, this increase in power would continue to increase. Moreover, the lethality and destructive power of Kang Shinmu's ninth stage ultimate roaring dragon explosion had almost reached the level of the flaming light beam that Lieni had just displayed. The terrifying power directly exploded beside Lieni. However, immediately after, the flames on Lieni's body condensed into an oval egg-shaped barrier, completely enveloping her flaming phoenix body. The defensive ability of this flame barrier had almost reached the peak of the Emperor rank, and it completely blocked Kang Shinmu's ninth stage ultimate roaring dragon explosion. Moreover, these flames seemed to be able to burn the void, burning a layer of void outside the flaming phoenix body. When Kang Shinmu's power bombarded over, it all blasted into the void, and it was almost impossible for it to pose a threat to Lieni, so powerful. Lieni was indeed a peak-level 9 martial emperor. Not only was her attack power extremely strong, but her defense was also watertight. She didn't give anyone the slightest chance. Kang Shinmu, your attack is so strong, it's almost as strong as my strongest attack. As expected, you've been hiding something. You still want to trick your sister, hee. Lieni's voice sounded from the arena. However, Kang Shinmu seized the opportunity to unleash his devouring power and devour the opponent's flame defense barrier. After the power of the opponent's flame defense barrier was devoured by Kang Shinmu, he transferred it to the brilliant gem. Then, Kang Shinmu began to attack without limit. Ninth stage Extreme Dao Roaring Dragon Burst, Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Technique Strong Offensive Stance, Illusory Ghost Book, Void Rose Stone. All kinds of methods were concentrated together, constantly exploding around Lieni, making it impossible for her to find time to fight back against Kang Shinmu. And during this time, Kang Shinmu constantly devoured the power of the opponent's flame barrier. It had to be said that the other party's flame barrier was extremely powerful. The energy within it was extremely dense and could not be devoured in a short period of time. However, Kang Shinmu had transferred all of it to the brilliant gemstone. He had to ensure that he could deal with the next attack. Moreover, while Kang Shinmu was constantly using the ninth stage Extreme Dao Roaring Dragon Explosion to attack, his opponent was also constantly consuming energy to defend. It had to be said that Kang Shinmu's current attack strength was almost at the peak of the Emperor stage. Moreover, he didn't need to consume any energy to attack continuously. This kind of method had already exceeded the understanding of everyone present. After all, such a powerful attack would definitely consume its energy very quickly, right? However, Kang Shinmu seemed to have an inexhaustible amount of energy. He attacked crazily and didn't seem to be at a disadvantage at all. Finally, after launching 10 attacks of the 9th stage Extreme Dao Roaring Dragon Explosion, Kang Shinmu felt that his opponent's defense seemed to have loosened a little. Here's my chance. Flame, attack. Kang Shinmu had just devoured too much flame energy. At this time, he directly felt that his opponent's defense was loosening. If he didn't attack now, when would he? Under his continuous attacks, his opponent's flame barrier seemed to have loosened a little. At the same time, endless flame energy erupted from Kang Shinmu's body. It was like a sea of fire was spreading towards his opponent's flaming phoenix body and crashing down. It was also at this time that Kang Shinmu suddenly felt that something was amiss. In the void in front of him, a void flame suddenly bloomed and directly bombarded the area where he was. This void flame seemed to be very strong, but it also had a strange feeling. It wasn't the kind of absolute power and destructive power, but seemed to have some strange effect. However, Kang Shinmu didn't care. He directly displayed the power of the brilliant rose stone and directly blocked this void flame. No matter what kind of attack it was or what special effect it had, he just had to block it. The brilliant rose stone's golden light curtain appeared and blocked the void flame. At the same time, Kang Shinmu found that the endless flame energy that he had burst out had completely wrapped Lieni's flaming phoenix body. The flame energy that he had burst out was equivalent to the power of his opponent's several attacks. It was absolutely not something that his opponent could easily resist. If his strongest power was increased by 3 or 5 times, how could she possibly resist it? Murong Lieni wasn't a pure defensive type of ancient Phoenix clan cultivator. Therefore, her entire body was burned by the flame energy. Murong Lieni's own resistance to the power of flames was extremely strong. However, at this moment, she couldn't withstand the bombardment of such a terrifying flame energy. Not to mention, Kang Shinmu continued to bombard her with 3 consecutive waves of 9th stage Ultimate Flood Dragon Explosion. This 9th stage Ultimate Flood Dragon Explosion also used the power of the Phantom Ghost Book and the power of the Brilliant Rose Stone. It directly appeared from the void in front of Murong Lieni. Murong Lieni simply didn't have time to block it. Her flaming phoenix body was instantly burned by the endless flames and blasted out of the arena. At the same time, it was the same for Kang Shinmu. Although Kang Shinmu used the Brilliant Rose Stone to resist Murong Lieni's void flame, the special effect of the void flame was to push the void out of the arena. Kang Shinmu's Brilliant Rose Stone resisted the void flame attack, but the space where his black dragon body was pushed back by the void flame. Almost at the same time, Kang Shinmu and Murong Lieni were blasted out of the arena. Chapter 4892. She shouldn't have died, right? Kang Shinmu couldn't help but think. Soon, Murong Lieni's aura completely disappeared from the arena. This made Kang Shinmu's heart skip a beat. He couldn't have really swallowed too much power and directly killed Murong Lieni, could he? If that was the case, then it would be a sin, but soon, he discovered a strange phenomenon. He discovered that in the endless flames, an oval-shaped flame egg appeared in the arena. Was that a phoenix egg? Murong Lieni actually underwent nirvana at this time? The surrounding people all cried out in surprise, especially the practitioners of the ancient Phoenix clan. All of them had looks of envy and surprise. They didn't expect that Murong Lieni would actually meet such an opponent on such an arena, who could be evenly matched with her, but not by too much, and beat her into the process of nirvana. Nirvana? What is that? Kang Shinmu was simply dumbfounded. He and Murong Lieni had been blasted out of the arena at almost the same time. So who had advanced to the top 4? Let's not talk about this for now. Anyway, the outcome of the arena battle was already out. Kang Shinmu directly returned to the spectator stands and looked at the flame egg from afar. Then he asked Yuyaji and Emperor Shi Divine Dragon what nirvana was. After the explanation, Kang Shinmu finally understood. At the same time, he felt a little emotional. This Murong Lieni was really lucky. Nirvana was a saying that only the ancient Phoenix clan had. The ancient Phoenix clan had always inherited the power of the ancient Phoenix god's flame. This power could go through 9 nirvanas. After each nirvana, the inheritor's power would become stronger. This was a method unique to the ancient Phoenix clan to become stronger. And nirvana itself was an opportunity that could be desired but not sought. The reason why one would become stronger after nirvana was because nirvana was in fact a process of swallowing external power to fuse into one's own power. This power must be compatible with one's own power. But the strength of every ancient Phoenix clan inheritor was uncertain. It could be said that the inheritors of the ancient Phoenix clan were always searching for a strength that was compatible with their own. Moreover, this strength had to be just right. It couldn't be too strong nor could it be too weak. He needed to be able to heavily injure her, but not directly kill her. In this situation, the compatible power would allow her to enter the state of nirvana. During nirvana, the cultivators of the ancient Phoenix clan were like fire eggs, and Murong Lieni was like that now. The nirvana process wasn't long, but Kang Shinmu discovered that Murong Lieni was currently absorbing the power that he had released. Part of that power was devouring power, and the other part was her own power that had been transformed by the devouring power. In that case, what kind of power was she compatible with? As Kang Xinmu thought to himself, the fiend celestial ancestor expressed, it must be the power of devouring. The devouring power was the power of the primal chaos sky-devouring dragon. This kind of power could devour everything in the world. At the same time, it was also compatible with everything in the world. This girl is really lucky. Hearing this, Kang Xinmu was speechless, but he quickly thought of something. Doesn't that mean that Murong Lieni will be able to use the power of devouring in the future? Strictly speaking, not really. The ancient phoenix god. I've dealt with that old woman before. She has experienced 9 nirvanas, and her own power has been fused with 9 powerful powers. But that is only a part of the nature of these 9 powers. She cannot use all 9 powers. Simply put, it is a weakened version of the power of devouring. Murong Lieni will be able to use it in the future, but it will definitely not be as strong as yours. Kang Xinmu had never imagined that a single arena battle would cause Murong Lieni to undergo such a nirvana transformation. After Emperor Shi's divine dragon and Yuya Ji's explanation, Kang Xinmu knew that it was extremely difficult for the cultivators of the ancient Phoenix clan to undergo nirvana. There were even many supreme powerhouses of the ancient Phoenix clan that hadn't even undergone nirvana once. But now, Murong Lieni had actually undergone nirvana. This was Murong Lieni's first nirvana. And in the entire ancient Phoenix clan, there was almost no one below the transcendent level who could undergo nirvana. This was because many of the powers that were compatible with the inheritance of the ancient Phoenix clan had already dissipated from this world. There were many transcendent level powerhouses of the ancient Phoenix clan who, by chance, encountered this power in the supreme ruins and then underwent nirvana by chance. Doesn't that mean that I can let all the cultivators of the ancient Phoenix clan undergo nirvana once? Kang Xinmu suddenly thought of this, and his expression became a little strange. In theory, yes. The demon god ancestor chuckled. How about it? Do you want to consider becoming the savior of the ancient Phoenix clan? Most of the inheritors of the ancient Phoenix clan are peerless beauties. If you can penetrate deep into the ancient Phoenix clan, you brat, you will be blessed. Look, this was the typical mentality of the demon god. In any case, Kang Xinmu definitely did not have such a plan now. He did not want to expose anything about the power of devouring. If this power was discovered to be compatible with the power of everyone in the ancient Phoenix clan, then Kang Xinmu felt that it would be the beginning of endless trouble. Too troublesome. But now, Murong Lieni began her nirvana. Therefore, the entire arena battle was directly suspended. The next 2 matches of the top 4 were temporarily postponed. During this period, everyone was paying attention to Murong Lieni's nirvana. Many people were discussing that after Murong Lieni's nirvana was successful, her battle strength would crush everyone else, and she would become a true peak emperor-level powerhouse. This was an opportunity that Kang Xinmu had given her. At this time, someone ran over to ask Emperor Shi the mystical dragon how the winner of this match between Kang Xinmu and Murong Lieni should be calculated. Emperor Shi the mystical dragon did not know about this. So she smiled and said, after that child's nirvana is successful, let her and Kang Xinmu discuss and decide. If it doesn't work out, then we will fight again. Emperor Shi the mystical dragon said this easily. If they fought again, it was almost impossible for Kang Xinmu to be Murong Lieni's opponent. This was because after Murong Lieni's nirvana was completed, she already possessed a part of the power of devouring. He still did not know how she would display her power of devouring, but no matter what, Kang Xinmu felt that it was only a draw. When Murong Lieni's nirvana was completed, he would definitely not be her opponent. No matter what, it was better to wait for Murong Lieni to wake up first. 2 hours later, Murong Lieni finally completed her nirvana. She familiarized herself with her current strength and cast a grateful look at Kang Xinmu. When someone came over to ask her how to calculate the winner of the match, she immediately made a decision. Kang Shinmu allowed me to obtain the great lucky chance of nirvana. Logically speaking, should let him win this match. But now that I have undergone nirvana, I have become stronger. I think I can take the championship. So I want to take the championship. But the prize for the championship can be exchanged with that of Kang Shinmu. How about this? Kang Shinmu, do you agree? This proposal made Kang Shinmu ponder. Chapter 4893. Kang Shinmu agreed to Murongliani's suggestion. Without a doubt, this was a great deal. The prize for the first place was 100,000 gold dragon coins, which was enough to buy 2 brilliant gemstones. It was very important to Kang Shinmu. After all, it was impossible for him to get a 9-layer engraved heaven and earth saint grade again. It was extremely difficult for him to get a large amount of cultivation resources. Therefore, it was a good thing to get cultivation resources from these places and exchange them for gold dragon coins. If Kang Shinmu fought alone, he might not be able to become the champion. It would be difficult for him to even get into the top 2. After all, his opponents were existences at Murongliani's level. Now that he had almost used up all his trump cards, it would not be easy for him to deal with his opponents now that they were on guard. Therefore, rather than fighting for his life, it was better to let Murongliani help him. However, if he gave her the title of the first place, Kang Shinmu also felt that if he really got the first place, it would be very dangerous for him in the future. After all, his talent was too terrifying. But if Murongliani became the champion, everything would be fine. Moreover, the prize for the champion would belong to Kang Shinmu. This was a win-win situation for both Kang Shinmu and Murongliani. Of course, in exchange, no matter what rank Kang Shinmu got, his part of the prize would still be given to Murongliani. Then, the arena battles continued. In the end, Kang Shinmu fought for a good rank for Murongliani. The 5th place would be rewarded with cultivation resources equivalent to 30,000 gold dragon coins. These were exchanged with Murongliani's 100,000 gold dragon coins. There was nothing more to say after that. Chu Yueqiang got the 4th place, and her reward was also 30,000 gold dragon coins worth of cultivation resources. To Chu Yueqiang, these cultivation resources were extremely precious. They were enough for her to break through to the level of a super divine dragon. However, she did not intend to monopolize these resources. Instead, she intended to share half of them with Kang Shinmu. After all, without Kang Shinmu's help, she could not even get half of these resources. However, Kang Shinmu did not accept it. Instead, he gave Chu Yueqiang a suggestion. Now that she had enough cultivation resources, should she help him lead the Devouring Dragon group? Chu Yueqiang immediately agreed to this suggestion. 30,000 gold dragon coins were enough for her to break through to the super mystical dragon rank. All that was left was time. During this process, it wouldn't be a problem for her to help Kang Shinmu take care of the Devouring Dragon group. So, the matter was decided. Kang Shinmu even gave Chu Yueqiang all the cultivation resources that Murongliani had given him, which were worth 100,000 gold dragon coins. He asked Chu Yueqiang to purchase some cultivation resources to nurture the Devouring Dragon group. Kang Shinmu believed that Chu Yueqiang would not embezzle these cultivation resources. The 2 arena battles held by the Martial Dragon continent were finally over. In the end, the Demon God tribe, the Ancient Phoenix tribe, and the Dragon God tribe all benefited greatly. As for the other tribes, the results were not very good. Among them, the Demon God tribe received guidance from Kang Shinmu, which increased the combat strength of the Demon God tribe's royal family. This was extremely significant to the Demon God tribe's royal family. As for the Ancient Phoenix tribe, they won the 2nd arena battle. Although the reward was given to Kang Shinmu, the champion was still the champion. After Murongliani underwent nirvana, everyone was surprised to find that her combat strength had become extremely terrifying. Wasn't Nirvana just a part of the ancient Phoenix tribe's strength increase? Why did it seem like it had multiplied several times? Even if the Imperial Cloud tribe met Murong Lieni in the finals, they were completely crushed by her. They were not her match at all. After the arena battles ended, Murong Lieni came to visit Kong Shinmu in a restaurant in the Martial Dragon Fortress. At the same time, she treated Kong Shinmu to a meal to thank him. At the same time, Murong Lieni was very curious about Kong Shinmu's power. I don't know how to use your power for now, and the effect is not as strong as when you use it yourself. However, this power is very strong. I can feel it, and it has many unique uses. Of course, I will not tell anyone this secret. Oh, right, the Demon God tribe told us that there will be a mid-level relic opening in 6 months. We invited the Dragon God tribe to participate. What do you think? This was a temporary alliance. At present, the Demon God tribe and the Ancient Phoenix tribe were willing to form an alliance with the Dragon God tribe. At present, no one had discovered the mid-level relic. Therefore, the Demon God tribe could have monopolized it, but this time, they were willing to explore it with the Ancient Phoenix tribe and the Dragon God tribe. The main reason was that the combat power of Kong Shinmu and Murong Lieni really made them jealous. With the two of them, it was very likely that they would be able to obtain a lot of benefits in the mid-level relic. Moreover, they could also gain the favor of the Ancient Phoenix tribe and the Dragon God tribe. Why not? What they needed to pay for this was that the cultivators of the Ancient Phoenix tribe and the Dragon God tribe would receive a share of the rewards. This did not affect them much. Kong Shinmu directly agreed to this matter and planned to inform Emperor Shi Mystical Dragon. To be able to explore a mid-level relic without needing to report to the Dragon God tribe was an opportunity for all the dragon martial artists. Therefore, Kong Shinmu did not need to ask Emperor Shi Mystical Dragon. After the arena battles ended, Emperor Shi Mystical Dragon left first. She still had very important things to do. The 9-layered engraved sacred treasure of heaven and earth was with her. She was an extremely strong existence on the front lines of the war, so she could not delay and had to go back. Before she left behind a jade slip. This jade slip was about unlocking the engravings of the sacred treasure of heaven and earth. It was mainly about Kong Shinmu's sacred treasure of heaven and earth, the Scarlet Rose Fan. This was a sacred treasure of heaven and earth with 3 layers of engravings. However, the evil prince had not been able to unlock it even once before. The main reason was that it required too many cultivation resources. For Kong Shinmu, wasn't it the same? Looking at the cultivation resources needed to unlock the engravings in the jade slip, Kong Shinmu was a little shocked just by glancing at it. The current him really could not unlock the seal of the Scarlet Rose Fan. With the wealth he had now, he was still far from unlocking the first layer of the seal of the Scarlet Rose Fan. He only had 1/3 of it. Therefore, for the time being, there was no need to think about it. However, the power of this Scarlet Rose Fan was already very strong. Kong Shinmu could not use it himself. After all, it was only equivalent to the peak of the 9th level of the Emperor realm. However, he could temporarily give it to others. Chapter 4894. After the arena battle was over, the Dragon Martial Continent became quiet again. The 9 major races all left the Dragon Martial Continent. The Dragon Martial Continent once again became a small world belonging to the Dragon Gods. From then on, any cultivators from other races who entered the Dragon Martial Continent would be regarded as hostile and provocative behavior. The Dragon Gods had the right to kill them directly. At this time, Kong Shinmu originally planned to return to the 5 Extremes Mysterious Ice Holy Land to keep his appointment with Luoan. But when he returned, he found that not only Luoan, but also that Feng Baixue had disappeared. These guys, it seemed like they wanted to renege on their promise. After all, what happened in the Dragon Martial continent quickly spread. Everyone knew how powerful Kang Xinmu was now. He could actually fight Murong Lieni to a draw. With such terrifying strength, how could Luoan fight Kang Xinmu? It should be known that Murong Lieni was a genius of the ancient Phoenix clan. Even if many people were not familiar with her, from the battle strength she showed in the arena battle, she was definitely at the level of Gu Xinyue. That was a 6th grade disciple. She had the battle strength of a supreme god. As for Luoan, he was still quite a distance away from becoming a 6th class disciple. Therefore, it could be said that Luoan had completely lost confidence in challenging Jiang Shenwu, and had directly fled with Feng Baixue. It was said that they had gone to the front lines to fight against the other races. Regarding this, Kang Xinmu naturally did not believe it. So, he directly told the matter to Emperor Shi Mystical Dragon. When Emperor Shi Mystical Dragon finished dealing with her matters and came back with free time, he would properly deal with this matter. He could not go back on the original bet. At least, the value of the things that Kang Xinmu bought in the treasure pavilion that day added up to 200,000 to 300,000 gold dragon coins. If Feng Baixue did not take out this sum of compensation, Kang Xinmu would not let her off easily. Of course, Kang Xinmu did not take this matter to heart. Since there was nothing going on here, Kang Xinmu still needed to consolidate his temporary cultivation and strength. Therefore, he planned to return to the Dragon Martial continent and continue searching for the members of the Devouring Dragon group. On this trip, Gu Xinyue also followed Kang Xinmu. Gu Xinyue was also waiting for the mid-level ruins to open in 6 months. Gu Xinyue was a level 9 martial emperor. She had been waiting for the opening of a mid-level relic. How could she miss this opportunity? Of course, this matter was kept a secret. After all, the demon god race had only invited Kang Xinmu. Kang Xinmu would report to Emperor Shi and the mystical dragon to select the candidates for the trip. However, in the end, Kang Xinmu would still have to look over the candidates. This was because the demon god race was giving face to Kang Xinmu. Otherwise, even Emperor Shi and the divine dragon might not have been able to convince them. There were many geniuses like Emperor Shi and the divine dragon in the demon god race. A month later, the Dragon Martial continent was located in the extreme south of the Dragon Emperor's kingdom. Kang Xinmu and Gu Xinyue pretended to be ordinary people and came to a mountain range in the Dragon Emperor's kingdom. Now that Kang Xinmu's cultivation realm had increased, the Black Dragon's consciousness could increase its sensing range according to his realm. Therefore, Kang Xinmu's speed in searching for the members of the Devouring Dragon group was much faster. At this time, they found a young girl. This girl was called Yunyiru. She was another highly talented dragon martial artist with a blood affinity of 65. It was a pity that Yunyiru had yet to awaken the divine dragon's blood essence. In this Dragon Emperor's kingdom, she was considered a low-level character. She was born in a tribe and was only 15 years old. She was not yet at the age to awaken the divine dragon's blood essence. When Kang Xinmu found her, she was running around anxiously. She was a very gentle and petite girl. Upon questioning, he found out that she had an older sister who was taken away by force. Her entire tribe did not dare to make a sound and allowed her sister to be taken away. That was because the person who took her sister was a Dragon King's level cultivator. The leader of her tribe, the strongest one, was only a celestial dragon. How could she and her entire tribe dare to fight against a Dragon King's level cultivator? Moreover, the Dragon King's level cultivator seemed to be very cruel and had a Dragon Emperor as his backing. This Dragon Emperor had even returned to her, the Dragon Emperor's kingdom, to seek revenge. Not far from her tribe, in a mountain range outside the Dragon Emperor's kingdom. Her sister had been taken to that mountain range. It was said that this Dragon Emperor of the Dragon Emperor's kingdom would duel with the Dragon Emperor behind the Dragon King's level cultivator. A duel between Dragon Emperors, to be honest, Kang Xinmu had never seen such a situation before and was rather interested. Yun Yiru, come with us. We can save your sister. Kang Xinmu and Gu Xinyue appeared before Yun Yiru and decided to help after listening to her explanation. How would Yun Yiru be willing to join the Devourer clan if this matter was not settled? Yun Yiru was rather surprised and baffled by Kang Xinmu and Gu Xinyue's appearance. Why would two people suddenly appear before her, saying that they had taken a liking to her talent and wanted her to go with them and bring her sister back? However, it was a critical moment and Yun Yiru could not think too much about it. She was very worried about her sister's safety, so she would probably agree to whatever terms Kang Xinmu suggested as long as her sister could be saved. Alright, as long as you two can save my sister, I will go with you. Now, she really did not know where Kang Xinmu and Gu Xinyue were going to take her since they had taken a liking to her talent. If it was only Kang Xinmu, perhaps Yun Yiru would think that Kang Xinmu had taken a liking to her beauty. However, Kang Xinmu had Gu Xinyue with him now. There was no doubt that Gu Xinyue and Kang Xinmu were rather close. Therefore, Kang Xinmu could not be here for her beauty, could he? In fact, even if Kang Xinmu was here for her beauty, she could not do anything about it. She had not even awakened the Divine Dragon clan's blood essence and could not fight a dragon martial artist at all. With Yun Yiru's agreement, Kang Xinmu laughed heartily. He saw that there were many people around the tribe who were pointing at them. Yun Yiru's sister had been taken away not too long ago and many of the dragon martial artists could only stare blankly. Now, they seemed to have realized that Kang Xinmu and Gu Xinyue, two strangers, were trying to help Yun Yiru bring her sister back. This made these dragon martial artists rather disdainful. In their eyes, Kang Xinmu and Gu Xinyue were just young people. How could they be the savage dragon king or even the dragon emperor when they looked so young? Chapter 4895. Of course, Kang Xinmu could not be bothered to explain to these people. After all, his attention was only on Yun Yiru. According to the Black Dragon's consciousness, there was no other talented person in the entire tribe. Of course, it would be great if Yun Yiru's sister was just as talented. He did not even transform into his divine dragon form. Together with Gu Xinyue, they brought Yun Yiru towards the direction where her sister was taken. The three of them took to the skies at an incredible speed. The dragon warrior tribe that Yun Yiru belonged to did not expect Kang Xinmu and Gu Xinyue to be able to fly so fast. Although they did not transform into their divine dragon form, they were actually faster than many Nirvana realm celestial dragons. Their tribe leader even felt that he could not keep up with Kang Xinmu and Gu Xinyue's speed. This made the people who were mocking Kang Xinmu and Gu Xinyue speechless. However, they did not realize anything. After all, Kang Xinmu and Gu Xinyue's level was much higher than theirs. It was not something they could easily imagine. That was why they did not say anything as they watched Yun Yiru being taken away by Kang Xinmu and Gu Xinyue. Although the trio's speed shocked them, they only thought that they were just a little stronger than their tribe leader. They never imagined that Kang Xinmu and the rest were at the level of Dragon King or even Dragon Emperor. Yun Yiru, on the other hand, was in a state of shock as she flew in the air. Her sister was a dragon warrior and the #1 prodigy within 1,000 miles. She had once brought her to soar in the sky, but at that time, even if her sister had transformed into a divine dragon, her speed wasn't this fast. It was as if they were traveling at lightning speed in the air. The three figures streaked across the sky at an extremely fast speed. And that was not all. After flying out of the territory of the tribe, Kang Xinmu brought the two women with him and directly teleported through space. He continuously used the wind shadow flowing flash technique, jumping through space with the two women. In an instant, they crossed a distance of nearly 1,000 miles. This was the border of the entire Red Flame Dragon country, a place that bordered another dragon country. In this place, there was a mountain called Green Lotus Mountain, which was the most natural barrier between the two Qi dragon countries. When my sister was taken away, the ferocious Dragon King seemed to have said that there were two dragon emperors fighting in the Green Lotus Mountains. However, the battle hasn't started yet. I don't know if anything happened to my sister. Yunyiru was nervous. Don't worry. If nothing has happened to your sister, then nothing will happen to her. If something has already happened, then there's no point in thinking so much. Gu Xinyue said with a chuckle, covering her mouth. Kang Xinmu was speechless. Gu Xinyue's words were clear and she was stating the truth, but why did it sound so awkward? Regardless, Kang Xinmu encouraged Yunyiru. Yunyiru, it's about time you tell us about your sister. Yunyiru nodded, no longer in a hurry. After all, the power that Kang Xinmu had displayed was far beyond what she knew. Even the Crimson Flame Dragon Emperor of the Red Flame Dragon Country where she came from, the most powerful person in Crimson Flame Dragon Country, might not be able to grasp space travel. It was said that only the strongest dragon martial artists in the world could perform such a feat. Therefore, after Kang Xinmu brought her through space, she knew that Kang Xinmu must be very strong, unlike Kang Xinmu who looked so young. At the very least, his ability did not match his age. This was a genius dragon martial artist who was much stronger than her sister. Yunyiru quickly collected herself and told her about her sister as quickly as she could. Her sister's name was Yuniyue, a young prodigy with a bit of fame in Crimson Flame Dragon Country. Yuniyue was 20 this year and had awakened the divine dragon's blood essence for 4 years. Her talent was renowned far and wide, and she was well known in many dragon martial artist cities nearby. Yuniyue, who had awakened 4 years ago, had started out as a celestial dragon's blood essence and was now on her way to becoming a holy dragon. This was what Yunyiru said, but she did not know the specifics. After all, Yunyiru was not even a dragon martial artist and had yet to awaken. There were many things that Yuniyue would not tell her. After all, telling her would only make her more troubled. Yunyiru had only heard about it from outsiders. Advancing from a celestial dragon to a holy dragon in 4 years was a rare occurrence in some remote dragon martial artist tribes. Moreover, Yuniyue's cultivation realm had already reached a decent level. This was a fact that the entire tribe knew that Yuniyue was now a powerhouse who was about to face the Nirvana tribulation. If it were not for the fact that Yuniyue was no longer cultivating and developing in the tribe, she could have even become the tribe's chief. It was because of this talent that Yuniyue's fame spread far and wide, to the point that everyone in the area knew about her. When Yuniyue returned to the tribe to visit her sister, Yunyiru, she happened to run into the ruthless Dragon King. Although Yuniyue was extremely talented, she could not put up much of a fight against the Dragon King and was taken away. Green Lotus Mountains. Kang Xinmu had already warped through space with the 2 girls and came close to the main peak of Green Lotus Mountains, Green Lotus Peak. He could feel the presence of the 2 dragon emperors from afar. Around the 2 dragon emperors, there were many dragon kings and dragon martial artists who had not even reached Dragon King realm watching. This dragon emperor's duel seemed to have a great impact. One side was Crimson Flame Dragon Country's dragon emperor. If anything happened to Crimson Flame Dragon Emperor, the entire Crimson Flame Dragon Country would be in trouble. Therefore, many Dragon King level powerhouses of Crimson Flame Dragon Country had come to watch this duel. They wanted to ensure that when Crimson Flame Dragon Emperor was in danger, they could lend a helping hand and protect Crimson Flame Dragon Emperor. However, the opponent was another Dragon Emperor and seemed to be here for revenge. Could they protect Crimson Flame Dragon Emperor? No one knew. Kang Xinmu did not care about Crimson Flame Dragon Emperor. These were all normal developments in the Dragon Martial Continent. Kang Xinmu did not want to interfere, but he wanted Yuniyue to join the Dragon Devourer regiment. Chapter 4896. 71 compatibility with the divine dragon blood meant that as long as there were sufficient cultivation resources, this dragon martial artist could reach the level of a peerless divine dragon. There was no one around Kang Xinmu with such a high compatibility. Of course, that was excluding Ran Ran. Ran Ran's compatibility was at 75. 71, however, had already surpassed everyone else around Kang Xinmu other than Ran Ran. Even a genius girl like Gu Xinyue only had a compatibility of 61, just enough to reach the first stage of the Super Divine Dragon. If he wanted to advance to the next level, he would need to break through the bottleneck. Although Jiang Shenwu could now use the method of transmission to help others break through the bottleneck, he did not need so many cultivation resources to forcefully break through. However, compatibility did not only mean when a dragon martial artist would hit a bottleneck, it also affected the martial artist's control over the divine dragon blood and their ability to consolidate their strength. A high compatibility would not only allow one to reach a higher upper limit, but they would also be able to unleash a stronger combat ability against someone of the same level. Although the difference was not huge, in a battle, the slightest difference was enough to affect the outcome and life and death. Therefore, when Kang Xinmu sensed that a genius with 71 compatibility had appeared in the Green Lotus Mountains up ahead, he was naturally delighted. Most importantly, he could sense that this genius's cultivation realm was not that high. Be it in terms of cultivation realm or the quality of the divine dragon's blood essence, it was Yun Yiru's older sister, Yue. Kang Xinmu did not expect to meet such a genius at all. Of course, he was overjoyed, but he was still worried that Yue had already suffered at the hands of the ruthless Dragon King who had abducted her. Therefore, he brought Yun Yiru and Gu Xinyue forward as fast as he could. What appeared before him was an extremely tall mountain. It was the main peak of the entire Green Lotus Mountains, named Green Lotus Peak. Around the clear Lotus Peak, Kang Xinmu could sense many Dragon King-level existences watching nervously. On the top of Green Lotus Peak, there were two experts at the Dragon Emperor realm confronting each other. It was the Dragon Emperor from the Red Flame Dragon Country. The Dragon Emperor of Red Flame Dragon Country and the Dragon Emperor of Red Flame, Tian Shao, who had come to seek revenge from the Dragon Emperor of Red Flame. The two of them had been confronting each other at the top of Green Lotus Peak, and they hadn't started fighting yet. No one knew what kind of grudges they had in the past. Kang Xinmu had no interest in any of this. He only wanted to save Yue and leave. That was all. Whether or not the Dragon Emperor of Red Flame was of no concern to Kang Xinmu. After all, Yue and Yun Yiru had no other relatives in the tribe. The others treated Yue the same way the Jiang clan treated Kang Xinmu. They were all respectful but without much sense of belonging. They felt that Yue was someone beyond their level and would not stay in the tribe in the future. In that case, she would not be of much use to the tribe. However, because of Yue's talent, the entire tribe was envied by the surrounding tribes. They even made concessions on certain matters. This was something the other tribes could not see. Regardless, to Kang Xinmu, he only needed to take care of the sisters. He brought Gu Xinyue and Yun Yiru and flew over from mid-air. Such a grand entrance naturally caught the attention of the Dragon Emperor and Dragon King experts around Green Lotus Peak. At this time, the surrounding Dragon Kings were shocked and shocked. What they saw was Jiang Shenwu bringing the two girls with him. None of them had transformed into their mystical dragon forms. When they got close, Jiang Shenwu removed his mystical dragon form. Therefore, when they appeared before them, it looked like a young man with two girls. Such a team had suddenly appeared near Green Lotus Peak in the middle of Green Lotus Mountains. Did these three not know that Scarlet Flame Dragon Emperor and Tian Shao Dragon Emperor were about to fight here? But in front of the two Dragon Emperors, the other Dragon Kings did not say much. Only a Dragon King from Scarlet Flame Dragon Country flew up and stopped in front of Kang Xinmu and the two girls. Clad in divine dragon armor, this person had transformed into a Dragon King's dragon form, bursting with authority. He stood in front of Kang Xinmu and the two girls sternly and said coldly, "Unauthorized personnel are prohibited from entering." Yun Yiru shuddered when she saw the man. She didn't recognize the middle-aged man in front of her. However, after transforming into a divine dragon, that 1,000 zhang long super-existence possessed boundless might. It directly gave off an incomparably shocking feeling. The shock of facing a powerful dragon martial artist was enough to strike Yun Yiru like she was struck by lightning. After all, Yun Yiru was just a little girl who had not even awakened yet. Not only was she too young, but she had also not seen many powerful dragon martial artists. Therefore, it was normal for Yun Yiru to be afraid. However, to Kang Xinmu and Gu Xinyue, the Dragon King before them was nothing. Kang Xinmu glanced at the man and asked Yun Yiru, "Is this the Dragon King who took your sister away?" Yun Yiru was stunned by Kang Xinmu's question, but she quickly recalled that this young man named Kang Xinmu seemed to be someone who was not even afraid of the Dragon Emperor. Yun Yiru shook her head quickly and said, "It's not him, not him. The Dragon King who captured my sister was a green divine dragon after he transformed into a dragon. He looked very ferocious." These words made the middle-aged Dragon King feel a little confused. He could tell that the young man in front of him seemed to be looking for a Dragon King with two young girls. Moreover, it was a green divine dragon that looked very ferocious. The key was that he was a little conflicted. Putting aside the green mystical dragon, his mystical dragon body was purple. But didn't his mystical dragon look ferocious? Was it not mighty? The three young men before him were chatting so openly in front of him, as if they did not take him seriously at all. Of course, the middle-aged Dragon King could tell something from their conversation. He asked immediately, "Are you three looking for the evil Dragon King? He seems to have brought a girl back. Are you people of our Crimson Flame Dragon country? If so, please stay calm. Our Dragon Emperor will definitely defeat Dragon Emperor Tianshao. As long as Dragon Emperor Tianshao is defeated, the evil Dragon King will not dare to act recklessly as his subordinate. Young lady, your sister was taken away by the evil Dragon King, wasn't it? Don't worry, we'll definitely rescue her. This is our duty." The words were spoken so fluently that even Kang Xinmu was stunned. Chapter 4897. Kang Xinmu did not expect the situation to be so complicated. The demonic Dragon King, as Tianshao Dragon Emperor's subordinate, had captured Yun Yiru's sister, Yuniyue. Although he had captured Yun Yiru's sister, Yuniyue, he did not dare to do anything to Yuniyue under Scarlet Flame Dragon Emperor's orders. Everything would have to wait for the two Dragon Emperors to decide the victor. The two Dragon Emperors were still in a stalemate. Whether or not Yuniyue could be saved depended on whether Scarlet Flame Dragon Emperor could win. If he could defeat Tianshao Dragon Emperor, he would definitely not let Tianshao Dragon Emperor go, and Yuniyue would be saved. Even the demonic Dragon King could only run for his life and would not be able to do anything to Yuniyue. However, if Tianshao Dragon Emperor won, then Tianshao Dragon Emperor could even topple the entire Scarlet Flame Dragon country. Under such circumstances, Yuniyue would be nothing to Scarlet Flame Dragon Emperor. Therefore, the current situation was dependent on the battle between the two Dragon Emperors. Who would emerge victorious would be able to affect the series of events that would follow. Kang Xinmu did not think so much. He was here to take Yuniyue away and had no interest in the battle between Tianshao Dragon Emperor and Scarlet Flame Dragon Emperor. Green Lotus Peak. Dragon Emperor Tianshao had already transformed into a Thunder Divine Dragon. His 500-foot-long divine dragon body soared above the peak. In front of him, the Crimson Flame Dragon Emperor had transformed into a Fire Divine Dragon. His entire body was covered in raging flames and he was also a divine dragon that was more than 500 feet long. His imposing manner wasn't any weaker than Dragon Emperor Tianshao. At the foot of Green Lotus Peak, the Dragon Kings were only on guard but did not transform into dragons. Kang Xinmu brought the two girls and followed Scarlet Flame Dragon Emperor's loyal Dragon King to the foot of Green Lotus Peak. There, he saw the demonic Dragon King and the young genius girl, Yue, who was bound by the demonic Dragon King's dragon weapon. Sister. Yunyiru could not help but cry out when she saw Yue. She was still young and could not keep her cool in such a situation. Jiang Shenwu, on the other hand, was stunned when he saw Yue. No wonder the evil Dragon King had taken a liking to Yue. She was an outstanding beauty. Yue was a dragon warrior with outstanding talent. She had a lot of prestige in the area. Even in this kind of situation, Yue was able to remain calm in the face of danger. However, when she saw Yunyiru, her expression changed again and again. She glanced at Kang Xinmu and Gu Xinyue and realized that she did not know either of them. However, such young dragon martial artists could not be more powerful than the Dragon Emperor, could they? Now, the two Dragon Emperors were going to duel. The outcome of this duel was not just Yunie's life but the safety of the entire Crimson Flame Dragon country. The entire country was tied to this duel. If Crimson Flame Dragon Emperor won, then everything would go back to normal and Crimson Flame Dragon Emperor's prestige would rise even higher. If Crimson Flame Dragon Emperor lost, then Crimson Flame Dragon country would be overthrown. At the foot of Green Lotus Peak, the two Dragon Emperors did not notice Kang Xinmu's arrival with the two girls. They just stood facing each other and chatted about some things, such as past grudges, and most importantly, what improvements they had made recently. In fact, as enemies, both sides knew each other's methods very well. However, the appearance of the demonic creature battlefield in the last 2 years had greatly improved some dragon martial artists. In this way, whether it was the Crimson Flame Dragon Emperor or the Sky Roar Dragon Emperor, they couldn't figure out each other's exact strength. They could only tell from the surface that both of them had inherited the blood essence of the divine dragon at the 3rd level of the Dragon Emperor. It was obvious that these two Dragon Emperors had not participated in the last 2 duels. Otherwise, they would have recognized Kang Xinmu. After all, Kang Xinmu's performance in the duels had been too stunning. But now, Jiang Shenwu's appearance in front of them did not attract their attention. Your sister is not in danger for now. Jiang Shenwu looked at Yunie's condition. She was only bound by the dragon weapon and was unharmed. She didn't seem to have been molested either. He couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. I'll do it. The corners of Gu Xinyue's lips curled up. She could not be bothered to wait. Without even transforming into a dragon, she raised her hand and the talent of the Nightmare Dragon appeared, enveloping the evil Dragon King. Then, a mighty force came crashing down, completely shattering the dragon weapons binding Yunie into pieces. This dragon weapon was only an ordinary one, not even a holy dragon weapon. How could it withstand Gu Xinyue's attack? Then, she raised her small hand and brought Yunie back to her side. This series of movements were as smooth as flowing water, and it was so fast that no one could react in time. The Wuxia Dragon King was a middle-aged man with a face full of muscles. However, he was enveloped by the Nightmare Dragon's innate ability, and fell into a dreamland that seemed to be real. Even the dragon weapon he had used to bind Gu Xinyue had been destroyed, but he had not sensed anything. He was still immersed in the dream. The difference between him and Gu Xinyue was too great. That was why Gu Xinyue had saved Yunie with a single move. Everyone in the surroundings was astounded. What was this? It was too terrifying. None of the Dragon Kings present could react in time. By the time they realized what had happened, Yunie had already been rescued and returned to Gu Xinyue. Even Yunyiru and Yunie were dumbfounded. They had not expected things to be so simple. While the sisters were still in a daze, the straightforward Dragon King who had brought them here, the Dragon Emperor of Crimson Flame, had already reacted. He had not expected Gu Xinyue to possess such terrifying power, subduing the evil Dragon King with just one move. This was definitely at the Dragon Emperor's level. More importantly, this beautiful girl had not even transformed into a dragon and was already so powerful. It was truly difficult. What's going on? By the time Yue came to her senses, she was already out of the evil Dragon King's clutches. She felt like she was in a dream. Looking back, she saw the evil Dragon King lying on the ground in agony, clutching his head and struggling on the ground. However, no matter how hard he struggled, he could not transform into a Dragon King. This was the Nightmare Dragon's talent. It could bestow sweet dreams, but it could also bestow nightmares, causing people to hallucinate and break down. Gu Xinyue had only just revealed her skills. A mere Dragon King was not worthy of her full power. Chapter 4898. No one thought that there would be someone other than the Scarlet Flame Dragon Emperor who could pose a threat to the evil Dragon King. Originally, they thought that as long as the Scarlet Flame Dragon Emperor didn't die, the evil Dragon King wouldn't be a threat. After all, the evil Dragon King was the Dragon Emperor's subordinate. Now, no one could predict the outcome of the battle between the two Dragon Emperors. Although everyone hoped that the Scarlet Flame Dragon Emperor would win, what if the Scarlet Flame Dragon Emperor lost? If the Scarlet Flame Dragon Emperor lost, then the Dragon Emperor Tianshao would likely take control of the Scarlet Flame Dragon country. At that time, the evil Dragon King would be a super big shot, and no other Dragon King in the Scarlet Flame Dragon country would be able to match his status. If that was the case, then whoever offended the evil Dragon King would be asking for trouble like a fool. Wouldn't that be asking for it? So, no one thought that someone would offend the evil Dragon King at this time. After all, the evil Dragon King hadn't done anything to Yue yet. Yet, the first thing she did was to make Yue so miserable. She was screaming and rolling on the ground, and couldn't even transform into a dragon. What kind of ability was this? Without transforming into a dragon, she directly made the evil Dragon King so miserable. Perhaps only someone at the level of the Dragon Emperor could do this. This girl in front of him was actually a master at the level of the Dragon Emperor? The honest and upright Dragon King of the Scarlet Flame Dragon country glanced at Gu Xinyue beside him and felt a chill run down his spine. If this was a Dragon Emperor, then didn't he have lived for decades in vain? When did the Dragon Emperor become so young? The neighboring Dragon Emperor country's Dragon Emperor Old Witch was already over 100 years old. Without a doubt, this Dragon King felt that this was the first time he had seen such a beautiful and young female Dragon Emperor. He did not have much experience, and during the invasion of the Void Beasts, he did not go to the Void Beast battlefield to hunt the Void Beasts, so he did not see many talented young dragon warriors. The other Dragon King glanced at Gu Xinyue and found that he had no impression of her at all. However, when he glanced at Kong Xinmu, he frowned slightly. He felt that this young man was somewhat familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen it. After all, he had only been to the Martial Dragon Fortress once. Furthermore, he had only gone there to deliver a letter and had not taken a good look around the fortress. He had most likely only met Kong Xinmu once. Don't be afraid. No one can hurt you sisters now. Gu Xinyue smiled at the sisters and turned to look at the evil Dragon King's direction. The Wuxia Dragon King was still screaming and rolling on the ground. But immediately after, a ball of blue flames appeared on his body. This ball of blue flames was like the nightmarish flames of hell, causing his entire body to be set ablaze. Painful screams could be heard continuously. Everyone was shocked by the scene. No one saw what Gu Xinyue did, but the evil Dragon King was slowly burned to ashes by the blue nightmares and completely disappeared from this world. This was a Dragon King. Why did it feel like he was not a dragon warrior and had not even awakened the divine dragon's blood essence? It was too shocking. It was only then that the two dragon emperors on Green Lotus Peak noticed the situation. The evil Dragon King's death made Dragon Emperor Tian Zhao's eyes pop out of their sockets. The evil Dragon King had been a very useful subordinate to him and had always followed his lead. How much dirty work had he done for him over the years? Who would have thought that he would die here out of the blue? Even Dragon Emperor Tian Zhao could not believe it, much less the other Dragon Kings. He could not believe that someone could kill the evil Dragon King so easily without even transforming into a divine dragon. It was something that even he could not do. Time to go. Dragon Emperor Tian Zhao did not have any killing intent towards Gu Xinyue because of this. Instead, he felt a sense of fear. Although he did not know who Gu Xinyue was and what kind of strength Gu Xinyue had, he had an intuition that if he went against Gu Xinyue now, he was likely to be killed by Gu Xinyue. He felt threatened by Gu Xinyue. Therefore, he did not hesitate and immediately turned to leave when he saw Red Flame Dragon Emperor looking at him. "I'll settle the score with you next time." Dragon Emperor Tian Zhao. This guy came back aggressively to settle the score with Red Flame Dragon Emperor and take revenge. However, after seeing his subordinate being killed in seconds, he directly turned to run away. Dragon Emperor Tian Zhao's figure was getting farther and farther away. Red Flame Dragon Emperor did not chase after him. He just looked at Gu Xinyue with some doubts. What the hell was going on? And Gu Xinyue and Kong Xinmu, of course, would not chase after Tian Zhao Dragon Emperor. No one could explain the grievances between Tian Zhao Dragon Emperor and Red Flame Dragon Emperor. Who knew what happened in the past? Therefore, Jiang Shenwu naturally couldn't be bothered to get involved in this matter. After all, the Crimson Flame Dragon Emperor was the one who killed his entire family. Wouldn't he be able to take revenge then? Therefore, killing the evil Dragon King was enough. In fact, as soon as he heard the name of the evil Dragon King, Kong Xinmu was a little disgusted. Who asked him to use the same name as the evil prince? No matter what, this matter was resolved. Yuniyue and Yun Yiru reunited. Neither of them had imagined that they would be saved in such an inexplicable manner. That cruel and ruthless Wuxia Dragon King had been killed without putting up any resistance. It was too horrifying. Right after that, Yun Yiru told Yuniyue about Kong Xinmu and Gu Xinyue's intentions. They hoped that they could join the Devourer clan together and become elite dragon warriors for training. They would serve Kong Xinmu in the future. If they were willing, they could make some small requests. For example, providing some cultivation resources to their original clans. In this aspect, it was similar to Li Xian and Wang Yue. After joining the Devourer clan, they had provided quite a lot of cultivation resources to their clans. This was the same as Jiang Shenwu. Jiang Shenwu had later used his relationship with the Yen Dragon Emperor to provide some cultivation resources for the Jiang clan. These cultivation resources would not allow the Jiang clan to suddenly rise, but it would allow the Jiang clan to develop steadily. Then, they would gradually occupy a dominant position in the surrounding area. Finally, they would slowly have stronger and more talented people rise. If they had the intention, they could leave most of the cultivation resources to the talented juniors. This was the most likely way for the entire clan to rise. However, if the resources were used by other elders, the clan's strength would definitely grow faster, but the potential for future development would be lower. Chapter 48-99. The matter was more or less resolved. Yun Yiru and Yuniyue were taken away by Kong Xinmu and Gu Xinyue. They did not indicate if they wanted to provide anything for their clan. Or rather, Yuniyue was unwilling to request anything from Kong Xinmu directly. Instead, she planned to rely on her own abilities to support her clan in the future. That was very self-reliant. Yuniyue was under a lot of pressure right now. Although she wasn't particularly attached to the dragon warrior tribe she belonged to, she didn't want to see it die. And now, the Crimson Flame Dragon country was facing the threat of Dragon Emperor Tian Shao. Kang Xinmu and Gu Xinyue did not finish off Dragon Emperor Tian Shao mainly because he had run away and they could not be bothered to chase after him. If Dragon Emperor Tian Shao had wanted to avenge the evil Dragon King, he might have been dead by now and nothing would have happened. However, since he did not offend Kang Xinmu and Gu Xinyue, they let him go. This would leave a hidden danger for Crimson Flame Country. However, no one, including Crimson Flame Dragon Emperor, could blame Kang Xinmu and Gu Xinyue for this. After all, they had no obligation to help Crimson Flame Dragon Emperor. Crimson Flame Dragon Emperor, on the other hand, was very respectful towards Kang Xinmu and Gu Xinyue. To Crimson Flame Dragon Emperor, he could clearly feel that Gu Xinyue was stronger than him. Otherwise, she would not have been able to kill the evil Dragon King without even transforming into her dragon form. After bringing Yuniyue and Yunyiru back, Jiang Shenwu finally began to rest and prepare for the trip to the intermediate ruins in 6 months. Meanwhile, at the Flaming Dragon Emperor's court, the sisters, Yuniyue and Yunyiru, were brought back immediately. After all, the Devourer clan's headquarters was in Fiery Dragon City. After arriving at Fiery Dragon City, Yuniyue and Yunyiru were a little sad. After all, this place was too far away from the Crimson Flame country they were from. It was so far that they could not return home in a short amount of time on their own. Therefore, they could only cultivate with all their might to make themselves stronger. It was the same for Yuniyue. As for Yunyiru, before awakening as a dragon martial artist, she would first look through books on dragon techniques and weapons in preparation for her awakening. In the past, her tribe did not have such conditions. But now that she had come to Flame Dragon City, with the help of Dragon Emperor Yen, she had all kinds of resources and all kinds of information. Of course, these were all information that they could use at the moment. As for the information that the Flame Dragon Emperor didn't have, they couldn't use it now. Most importantly, there were many people in charge of training the Devouring Dragon group in the Fiery Dragon City. Dragon Emperor Yen was one of them. Other than Dragon Emperor Yen, there were many other powerful people who were second to none in the entire Dragon continent. Among them were the 2 Dragon Emperor mentors from Donghuang Yangu College, Chu Yueqiang and Tan Shouzhua. These 2 mentors were currently teaching some of the stronger but lower-level dragon techniques in the Devouring Dragon group. It was a way for the members to familiarize themselves with the structure, cultivation, and understanding of dragon techniques. With these 2 powerful people present, the members of the Devouring Dragon group improved by leaps and bounds. After Kang Xinmu and Gu Xinyue's search, the Devouring Dragon group had expanded to 62 members. Excluding Li Xian, Wang Yue, Yunyiru, and Yuniyue, there were 58 members left. Kang Xinmu's idea was for Li Xian to be the leader, Wang Yue to be the vice leader, and Yuniyue to be one of the vice leaders. However, in the face of such an arrangement, Li Xian raised his hand to indicate that he would directly let Wang Yue be the leader. Fine, let her be. The position of the leader indeed needed someone with strong ability and not someone with a high cultivation talent. Therefore, the position of leader was given to Wang Yue, while Li Xian and Yuniyue became vice leaders. As for Yuniyue becoming vice leader immediately, there were naturally many members in the Devouring Dragon group who were dissatisfied. Therefore, they all challenged Yuniyue. Some of these members had been in the Devouring Dragon group for a period of time, so they had been trained and were rather outstanding in terms of dragon techniques. Although Yuniyue was talented, she had only just joined the Devouring Dragon group. In terms of battle experience, she was still inferior to the other members. Moreover, with her current Divine Dragon Blood Essence grade and cultivation realm, she did not have much of an advantage over the members who had trained in the Devouring Dragon group for a period of time. Therefore, in response to these people's challenges to Yuniyue, Kang Xinmu arranged for it to be held a month later. A month later, Yue would accept these people's challenges. At first, Yue was not convinced. She felt that with her current battle strength, she should not lose to these so-called geniuses of the same age, right? But after watching the Devouring Dragon group members spar with each other, Yue decisively dismissed the idea of directly accepting the challenge. The gap was too big. She didn't think much of the Devouring Dragon group at first, but after watching the members of the Devouring Dragon group sparring with each other, her inner yearning was ignited. This was a truly powerful dragon martial artist organization. The strength of the Devouring Dragon group was even more terrifying than the entire Red Flame Dragon country. Wasn't this too shocking? What kind of battle strength did they have? Yue had always felt that her battle strength and cultivation realm were top-notch among the geniuses of her year. But now that she saw the Devouring Dragon group members, she realized that she was not the strongest. There was always someone better out there. Unbeknownst to her, when these geniuses first joined the Devouring Dragon group, their initial strength was not as good as Yue's. But after this period of training, their strength could be said to have improved by leaps and bounds. Each of them had increased their battle strength by several times, or even dozens of times. On the 7th day after Kang Xinmu brought Yue and her sister back, even Shengguan Dai came to Flame Dragon City to help Kang Xinmu train the Devouring Dragon group members. So many of them were personally taught by the Dragon Emperor, who was at the peak of the Dragon Emperor. They were even provided with cultivation resources that far exceeded those provided by the Dragon Martial Academy. All of this allowed the members of the Devouring Dragon group to improve extremely quickly. The concentration of these geniuses made Chu Yueqiang, Tan Shouzhua, and Shengguan Dai each sigh. It seemed that the current system of the Dragon Martial Academy was not very good. They had actually missed out on so many geniuses, and all of them had been gathered by Kang Xinmu. At the same time, they were amazed that Kang Xinmu could acutely sense the existence and location of these geniuses. This was a little too miraculous. To be able to see the compatibility of a dragon martial artist's divine dragon blood, wasn't this too miraculous? And so, Shengguan Dai secretly went to Kang Xinmu's room to test his ability and ask him about her compatibility. In the end, Kang Xinmu really got it right. Chapter 4900. This level of compatibility was very comfortable. At the very least, it was slightly better than Gu Xinyue's. Without external help, Shengguan Dai's achievements would be even greater than Gu Xinyue's. She might even reach the level of an unparalleled divine dragon. Of course, that would still be very difficult. In any case, under the guidance of various experts, every member of the Devourer Dragon squad was improving by leaps and bounds. Especially Yue, who had just joined. She received many times more cultivation resources than before, and with the guidance of powerful seniors, her improvement speed was astonishing. It could be said that Yue's improvement speed was the fastest among all the members of the Devourer Dragon squad. It had only been a short 3 days since she had arrived at Flame Dragon City, but her battle prowess had already doubled compared to when she had first arrived. On the 7th day since she had arrived at Flame Dragon City, her battle prowess had even increased to 3 or 4 times that of when she had first arrived. This was the explosive growth of her talent after she had obtained sufficient cultivation resources. Basically, every member of the Devourer Dragon squad would experience a similar explosive improvement after arriving in Yen Dragon City. However, Yue's explosive improvement was the most violent. Her breakthroughs were simply too fast, and each breakthrough did not require too much time to consolidate her strength. This was the power of compatibility. Although before reaching a bottleneck, all the dragon martial artists' cultivation speed was about the same, dragon martial artists with higher compatibility levels could master and consolidate their strength faster. This was the case for Kang Xinmu and Su Yi. Their respective compatibility levels were definitely extremely high. Otherwise, they would not have been able to completely master the increased strength after their breakthroughs in such a short period of time. If the compatibility level was not high, then even if they continuously fought, it would be difficult to master all the strength so quickly. This was all a problem of compatibility. Therefore, the demon god Su Ye's compatibility level was definitely above 70, and Yueyue's compatibility level was about the same as hers. One could imagine how fast she was consolidating her strength. Basically, with a breakthrough every 3 days, she would be able to control all the power that she gained. This was a little too terrifying. Of course, this was nothing to Kang Xinmu, but to Chu Yueqiang, Tan Shoujue, and the other instructors of the Dragon Emperor, Yueyue's explosive growth made them feel a little emotional. If even the Dragon Martial Academy couldn't discover such a genius, it seemed like there were still many geniuses in the Dragon Martial continent that they didn't know about. Over the years, how many talented young dragon martial artists had the 4 Dragon Martial Academies missed out on? Originally, the Holy Tower of the Fire Dragon had a system to select talented dragon martial artists, which was a good system. At the very least, there were no problems in the early stages. However, later on, the number of geniuses who were qualified to enter the Dragon Martial Academy in every Chi Dragon became fewer and fewer. As time went by, most of the sacred towers in Chi Dragon became mere decorations. Apart from the truly talented or those who had caught the eye of the Dragon Emperor and were qualified to enter the sacred towers, the others basically didn't even have the opportunity to enter the sacred towers. This was the case with the geniuses that Kang Xinmu had gathered. However, there were basically only 1 or 2 geniuses of this level in each Chi Dragon, so from this point of view, the 4 Dragon Martial Academies didn't miss out on too many geniuses. In a single Chi Dragon, this was the number of genius dragon martial artists that could be found. During this time, Kang Xinmu didn't idle around. He left the teaching of the Devouring Dragon group to the instructors of the Dragon Emperor. After all, they were more professional when it came to teaching cultivation. During this time, Kang Xinmu dragged Shengguan Dai along to train the dragon martial technique with her, mainly in the aspect of the sunset glow flash. After this 9th level Emperor stage battle, Kang Xinmu discovered his weakness, and that was that the sunset glow flash still had some limitations. He couldn't flash away when his opponent was controlling him. Therefore, he had to cultivate the sunset glow flash to the level of the Supreme Sage realm before the opening of the mid-level relic. That way, he would truly have a deeper understanding of the void, and the benefits it would bring could be said to be unimaginable. It would allow him to obtain a great improvement in all aspects related to space. This also included the inheritance of the power of the void. Of course, this would not be revealed in front of outsiders. Other than that, there was also the plan to go to the mid-level relic. This mid-level relic operation could be said to be quite important, but there were also many familiar people participating, including many on Kang Xinmu's side. When the demon god race invited Kang Xinmu, they said that he could bring a few dragon martial artists to participate. Therefore, Kang Xinmu had the right to decide. In that case, Gu Xinyue would definitely be included, followed by Chu Yueqiang, Tan Shoujue, and Shengguan Dai. There were a total of 5 dragon martial artists, and each of them was a 9th level Emperor stage powerhouse. Although besides Gu Xinyue no one was considered to be at the top, they were absolutely not weak either. In the mid-level relic exploration, they were basically at the top of the hierarchy. Unless they encountered a heaven-defying existence like Murong Lieni, otherwise, even if they encountered an opponent at the level of Huang Yun, they would still be able to put up a fight. However, this time, there was an absolute alliance with the demon god race. Kang Xinmu knew that Su Yi and Huang Yun would definitely appear together. In addition, there was also ancient Phoenix clan's Murong Lieni. If these powerhouses attacked together, it would put a lot of pressure on Kang Xinmu. Although they were all familiar with each other and would most likely not fight, in the face of certain competition for resources, especially Heaven and Earth Saint items with multiple seals, there would definitely be a fight. For Kang Xinmu, the current problem was that it would be good if he could improve the Blood Rose Fan. If he could unlock one seal, he would be able to rely on the power of the Blood Rose Fan to face a fatal crisis in the mid-level relic. This was equivalent to having another life. However, Kang Xinmu did not have enough resources, so he gave the Blood Rose Fan to Ran Ran for safekeeping. This time, Ran Ran, Xiao Bai, Liang Xiao, and Xiao Yuhua went to participate in a low-level relic together. They were all very strong, and with the Blood Rose Fan, he believed that they would be able to obtain a good harvest in the low-level relic. Now that they had set off, Kang Xinmu was also quite worried about them. Fortunately, they were not babies that were pampered. They had grown up fighting with other races, so their combat strength was definitely not bad. Chapter 4901. 3 months of waiting passed in the blink of an eye. Putting aside the growth of the Devouring Dragon Group for the time being, for Kang Xinmu, no matter how fast the Devouring Dragon Group was growing, it was impossible for them to keep up with his pace and help him. Of course, the geniuses and experts in the Devouring Dragon Group had now reached a rather good level of cultivation and the grade of the Divine Dragon's blood essence. Perhaps after a period of time, they would be able to compete with the Dragon Warriors at the level of the 12 Flame Dragon Ambassadors. After a period of time, they would be able to reach the level of the Dragon Emperor. Of course, all of this required more time and patience. Although they were geniuses, they still needed to constantly familiarize themselves with and consolidate their strength. From time to time, they would be given some actual combat missions. Not all the dragon warriors in the Dragon Martial Continent were righteous. There were still some evil dragon warriors who stirred up trouble everywhere or faced opponents like demonic beasts. To the members of the Devouring Dragon Group, these were all good ways to test themselves. It was a pity that the Heaven Awakening Devil Dragon was no longer around. Otherwise, he could be in charge of arranging demonic beast challenges for the members of the Devouring Dragon Group. Now that the Heaven Awakening Devil Dragon had chosen to join the Demon God tribe not long ago, Kang Xinmu was not sure how the Heaven Awakening Devil Dragon was developing in the Demon God tribe. He also did not know when they would meet again. Moreover, he did not know how the Heaven Awakening Devil Dragon would treat Kang Xinmu the next time they met. 3 months had passed, and Jiang Shenwu's own improvement was also tremendous. In terms of cultivation realm, Kang Xinmu did not deliberately make a breakthrough. He just constantly consolidated and brewed his strength, allowing himself to reach the peak of the 8th level of the reincarnation realm. However, in terms of the Divine Dragon's blood essence, Kang Xinmu improved further and broke through to the 7th level of the Dragon Emperor. Moreover, during this period of time, he completely grasped and comprehended the 7th level of the Dragon Emperor's power. He consolidated all his strength and strived to reach the strongest state. At his current level, his strength was a level higher than when he had been in the arena battles. The increase in his basic strength had caused his battle prowess to soar. He could even fight one-on-one with Huang Yun and Murong Lieni without being at a disadvantage. Of course, it was the former Murong Lieni. Now that Murong Lieni had gone through nirvana, she already had a part of Kang Xinmu's power, which gave Kang Xinmu quite a headache. If they really fought, Kang Xinmu might not be Murong Lieni's opponent. No, not maybe. It should be said that it was basically impossible for him to be her opponent. Anyway, Kang Xinmu felt that Murong Lieni had a good relationship with him. Unless she encountered a saint object with 9 layers of engravings, it was unlikely that she would attack him. He could rest assured about this. They could even work together, apart from the Dragon God clan, the Demon God clan, and the Ancient Phoenix clan. There had been no news of any other clans discovering this mid-level relic. However, no one knew if other clans would eventually join in. The current situation in the chaotic battlefield was very tense. All the major clans were looking for relics, wanting to obtain more cultivation resources that were beneficial to their clans from the relics of various grades. Not to mention the saint objects with multiple layers of engravings, even the flame and ice hexagonal crystals that Kang Xinmu had obtained before were quite good materials for some practitioners. Some practitioners originally had the attributes of ice and fire. After adding the radiance of the hexagonal crystals into their combat weapons, their own combat strength would be greatly improved. If they could obtain more of these materials, it would also be a great improvement for the overall strength of their clans. And the improvement of Kang Xinmu's current strength was not just a breakthrough of one level of the divine dragon's blood essence. The most important thing was that he had finally absorbed the power of Shengguan Dai, Er's red wind shadow. Relying on her mastery and understanding of this move, Kang Xinmu himself had also reached the level of the extreme saint realm. At this level, Jiang Shenwu's mastery of space was practically at his fingertips. Even when he was at the stage of sealing space, he was still able to execute the blade's shadow flowing sunset flash. Practically no one could trap him. This ability would be especially important when exploring mid-grade relics. According to the current degree of Kang Xinmu's mastery of space had already reached the level of the super divine dragon. Moreover, it was at the second or even the third level of the super divine dragon. Therefore, in the Dragon Emperor stage, it was basically impossible for anyone to have a stronger perception of the void than him. Of course, Shengguan Dai, was not inferior in this aspect. Her current understanding of the void was probably at the level of Kang Xinmu. As for Kang Xinmu's improvement during this period, everyone was shocked. This kid's improvement speed was a little too terrifying. In such a short time, he had broken through one level of the divine dragon's blood essence. Moreover, his strength had been completely consolidated. Most importantly, he had also cultivated a high-grade dragon source martial skill to the extreme saint realm. It should be known that the extreme saint realm was not cabbage. Many cultivators could not cultivate a martial skill to the extreme saint realm in their lifetime. It was already quite good to reach the extreme saint realm. And the extreme saint realm was the peak form of the dragon source martial skill. The current Kang Xinmu could be said to be much stronger than when he was in the arena battle. He wondered how Suyi from the demon god clan, who had broken through with him, was doing now. When the mid-grade relics opened, he would be able to know Suyi's situation. Kang Xinmu was not in a hurry. In these 3 months, he cultivated step by step. After 3 months, he finally brought everyone and prepared to set off. This time, Emperor Shi Mystical Dragon personally led the team. After all, this was a cooperation with the Demon God clan and the Ancient Phoenix clan. The Dragon Gods would not be at ease if they did not send some important figures to be present. Whether it was Kang Xinmu or the other 4 women, each of them was the most precious genius of the Dragon Gods. They could not be lost. At the very least, they could not die in any accident. Letting Emperor Shi Mystical Dragon lead the team was to prevent such accidents from happening. Kang Xinmu brought Gu Xinyue, Chu Yueqiang, Tan Shouzhua, and Shengguan Dai, The 4 of them, who were on the 9th floor of the Dragon Emperor Academy, followed Emperor Shi Mystical Dragon, who had come to the Dragon Martial Continent to pick them up. Now that Donghuang Yangwu College had changed its dean, the relationship with Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy had eased. Emperor Shi Mystical Dragon was also very appreciative of Chu Yueqiang and Tan Shouzhua. After all, these 2 could be considered to have a close relationship with Kang Xinmu. So, under the leadership of Emperor Shi Mystical Dragon, the 5 of them went to the chaotic battlefield. This time, the mid-grade relics were found on the 6th floor of the chaotic battlefield. Emperor Shi Mystical Dragon first brought Kang Xinmu and the others to a stronghold of the Dragon Gods on the 6th floor of the chaotic battlefield. This stronghold was guarded by many dragon warriors and staff. Unexpectedly, when Kang Xinmu came to this stronghold, he actually met acquaintances. He did not expect them to be working here. They were Lin Yuji, Qin Fengyu, and Lu Hua, who had been sent to the chaotic battlefield by Zhou Xiaofan previously. Originally, Kang Xinmu had been very worried about them. He did not expect the three of them to be working in this stronghold. If they were to handle some affairs, they did not need to enter the relics or leave the stronghold to face danger. It could be said that the three of them were quite safe now. Moreover, the benefits of working here were not small. They could come into contact with many cultivators of the dragon gods and obtain more cultivation resources for their own cultivation. Chapter 4902. When Lin Yuji saw Kang Xinmu, she was pleasantly surprised. Then she talked to Kang Xinmu about her recent experience. After being sent to this stronghold of the dragon gods on the chaotic battlefield, Lin Yuji took Qin Fengyu and Lu Hua to work as clerks here, which was a relatively stable state. In this state, they might not have rich combat experience, but they had accumulated a lot of knowledge about various aspects. In short, they probably knew more about the various relics and the major races than Kang Xinmu. After all, in the stronghold of the dragon gods on the chaotic battlefield, there were a lot of things to do. It could be said that the dragon gods also participated in the discovery of various relics in many aspects. Kang Xinmu just didn't know, and even if he knew some relics had appeared, he was not qualified to participate in the exploration. For the dragon gods, many relics were organized to be explored by individual holy lands, and no other holy lands would have a place to enter. There was still a relationship of competition between each holy land. Although most of them cooperated, competition was also very important. For example, the preliminary relics of Kang Xinmu last time were jointly explored by 4 holy lands, including the 5 extremes Dark Ice Holy Land. Mainly, each holy land needed to develop itself, and it was impossible to select the experts of all the holy lands to explore. At most, the experts of some holy lands were relatively famous in the corresponding level of the divine dragon's blood essence. For example, Kang Xinmu was now the most famous one below the 9th level of the Dragon Emperor. In this case, it was possible for him to be invited to some relics that other holy lands were responsible for exploring. So, Kang Xinmu was relatively less knowledgeable, but now Lin Yuji and the others were different. The dragon gods had several strongholds on the 6th level of the chaotic battlefield, but this stronghold was a relatively important one. Many holy lands used it as a base for exploration and rest. Many people would stay here, including searching for relics, participating in relics, rescuing relics, and so on. In this way, under the influence of what they saw and heard, Lin Yuji and the others naturally had a lot of information about relics and experts of other races. Kang Xinmu, are you here to explore the relics this time? Lin Yuji first invited Kang Xinmu and the others to eat together, and then asked. Yes, I'm exploring an intermediate ruin. Kang Xinmu nodded. He didn't mind it and said it directly. Intermediate relics. There haven't been any intermediate relics appearing recently. Lin Yuji felt a little strange. She was well informed in this Dragon God clan stronghold, but she hadn't heard that any middle-level relics had been discovered by the Dragon God clan recently. After all, she was responsible for registering and recording a lot of things. If it appeared, she would definitely know. But this time, she did not receive any news at all. It's not a mid-level relic discovered by our Dragon God clan. Kang Xinmu shook his head and said with a smile, I think it was discovered by the demon god race, and they invited us to explore it together. In addition, it seems that several powerhouses of the ancient Phoenix clan are also participating. Apart from that, I don't know. A mid-grade relic discovered by the demon god race. When Lin Yuji heard this, she suddenly smiled bitterly and enviously. I heard about your battle results in the Dragon Martial Continent. I didn't expect you, Kang Xinmu, to reach such a level in such a short time. Compared to you, I'm really too weak. Although Lin Yuji had improved a lot, she hadn't even reached the level of the Dragon Emperor's mentor. How could it be so easy to improve the level of the divine dragon's blood essence? Kang Xinmu didn't say much about Lin Yuji's feelings. If he said too much, it would make people feel that he was pretentious. The news of the mid-level relic discovered by the demon god race hadn't spread. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been possible for only the invited races to participate. It was said before that there were various types of relics in the chaos battlefield. There were beginner relics, intermediate relics, advanced relics, and so on. There were even some permanent relics. These permanent relics were where the strongest powerhouses of the corresponding stage were. For a mid-level relic, the things produced in it might be very good. At the very least, it could produce cultivation resources equivalent to 1,000,000 gold dragon coins. No matter which race got the news, they would definitely not let it go easily. Cultivation resources worth 1,000,000 gold dragon coins were the lower limit. Compared to the lower limit of a beginner relic, which was about 500,000 gold dragon coins, an intermediate relic would obviously increase the overall strength of a race. Of course, that was under the condition that there was no heaven and earth sacred grade. Once a heaven and earth sacred grade appeared, the total value of the relic would skyrocket. It was just that no one would know if there was a heaven and earth sacred grade there before they really explored it. This was completely impossible to see from the periphery of the relic, so they could only send people in to see. Lin Yuji guessed that the location of the mid-level relic discovered by the demon god race was relatively hidden, and the surrounding terrain was complex. That was why no other races had discovered it. Otherwise, it would take a long time to open the mid-level relic. During this time, the movement emitted by the mid-level relic would definitely be discovered by the teams of other races searching for the relic. As for Lin Yuji's guess, Kang Xinmu did not know whether it was true or not. Anyway, for the time being, he had not heard from the demon god race that there were other people participating in the exploration of this mid-level relic. Next, Kang Xinmu brought Gu Xinyue, Shengwan Dyer, Chu Yueqiang, and Tan Shouzhua. A total of 5 people rested in this stronghold for 2 days. Then, they followed Emperor Shi and the dragon god race and left this stronghold. The 6th underground zone of the chaos battlefield had not been developed too much. Many areas were relatively primitive, and there were not many traces of excavation. They moved underground and soon came to a marked location in the 6th zone. At this marked location, Kang Xinmu saw the genius from the demon god race that he had not seen for a long time. Su Yi. Su Yi came alone, but he seemed very honest. Obviously, he was worried that the people of the dragon god race were too afraid of the demon god race. If Su Yi came alone, the people of the dragon god race would be more relaxed. You brought so many beauties. When Su Yi saw Kang Xinmu and the others appear, she immediately covered her mouth and chuckled. What will happen to our little princess in the future? From what she said, it was obvious that she knew about the relationship between Kang Xinmu and Su Yi. Kang Xinmu did not say much. He coughed and said, Su Yi, we have arrived. Take us to the mid-level relic first. Now, is there anyone else who knows about the mid-level relic? There are 2. Su Yi shook his head with some regret. Then, he got down to business. One of them is the Bone Imperial clan, and the other is an ancient tribe of the Star God race. Our opponents from both sides cannot be underestimated. The Bone Imperial clan was an ancient tribe of the Star God race. Chapter 4903. Kang Xinmu had never come into contact with the Bone Royal clan before, but it was said that they were a powerful clan that cultivated the inheritance of the Bone King. The members of the Bone Imperial tribe were rarely seen. This was because they were a very secretive tribe. Basically, they wouldn't cooperate with other tribes. Their tribe focused on exploring the ruins of the chaotic battlefield. Moreover, they were all alone. It was said that they had a set of relic exploration methods that other clans did not have. However, the members of the Bone Royal clan had always been relatively rare, or it could be said that the number of members of the Bone Royal clan was too small. In the Bone Royal clan, there were not many people who could really inherit the inheritance of the Bone Royal clan. The others were all existences that served the Bone Royal clan, and they were all equivalent to slaves. It could be said that every member of the Bone Royal clan was an elite. The combat power of the entire Bone Royal clan was about the same as that of a Holy Land of the Dragon God clan, but each of them was extremely powerful. It was said that if a member of the Bone Royal clan wanted to grow, he must go through the cruel training of the Bone Emperor's inheritance so that he could have a strong combat power. If compared with the Dragon Gods, the weakest inheritor of the Bone Royal clan could defeat 90% of the Dragon Warriors of the same realm. This was the strength of the Bone Royal clan. I didn't expect that the Bone Royal clan would participate this time. Emperor Shi and the Dragon God's expressions changed slightly. There is no other way. Suyi also looked a little helpless. The mid-level relic that was discovered this time is actually in the 7th zone of the chaotic battlefield. There are not many clans that can mix in the 7th zone. Only a clan like the Bone Royal clan that focuses on exploring the ruins will have people patrolling the 7th zone. In addition, the ancient tribe of the Star God clan is called the Polaris tribe. This Polaris tribe is also a tribe within the Star God clan that specializes in exploring the ruins. Every one of the Star God clan's inheritors is extremely powerful. Although this time we have 3 clans joining forces, our opponents are also very strong. Of course, this time the ancient Phoenix clan is the same as you, only sending 5 people. As for the Demon God clan, we have a total of 130 people. In addition, according to the rules, the Star God clan and the Bone Royal clan will each send 20 people. The reason why the Demon God race had sent 130 people was because they had invited the Dragon God race and the Ancient Phoenix race. Therefore, they had already taken up 3 spots. Furthermore, they had only invited 5 spots each. This way, the Demon God race would have more spots. This kind of places could naturally be decided by themselves, as long as it did not affect the total number of 5 places stipulated in the rules. Since the Demon God race had invited them, the Ancient Phoenix clan and the Dragon God race were too embarrassed to send more people. As such, the Demon God race was the absolute main force in this expedition. The Star God and the Bone Royal clan would each send 20 people, even if they were all elites, and could not compare with the Star God clans overall. Of course, the Demon God race might give those who were not very strong a piece of advice, and that was, if they encountered people from the Bone Imperial clan or the Star God race and could not deal with them, they should immediately choose to leave the relic. Apart from peak experts like Su Yi and Huang Yun, there was practically no one who could contend against the elites of these 2 clans. Now that Kong Shinmu had received this news, he was naturally a little excited. After the joint arena battle of the 10 major races, he had seen many top Dragon Emperor powerhouses of various races, but to be honest, he was still a little disappointed. Other than a few people, the others disappointed Kong Shinmu. Their battle prowess was simply too weak. Who would have thought that the ancient tribes of the Bone Imperial tribe and the Star Divinity tribe would be his opponents? This was a good opportunity for him to improve. Now, Kong Shinmu's strength was at the 7th level of the Dragon Emperor realm, and the 8th level of the Samsara realm. He had not reached the peak of this level, but as he broke through the wind shadow flowing cloud flash to the level of the Supreme Sage realm, he was already considered a top existence in the Dragon Emperor realm. It was basically impossible to defeat Kong Shinmu. Of course, the Star Divinity tribe and the Bone Royal family would likely have people with a heaven and earth sacred treasure. If he encountered an opponent with a heaven and earth sacred treasure, even Kong Shinmu would have to deal with it with absolute strength, and he might still not be a match. As long as a heaven and earth sacred treasure was unlocked, it could reach the power of the 4th level of the Super Dragon God. Although the number of times he could attack was limited, and the energy was limited, Kang Xinmu had to take it seriously. With his current strength, if he went all out, he could withstand 3 moves from his opponent. But after 3 moves, Kang Xinmu would not be able to do anything. Of course, his opponent might not have a heaven and earth sacred treasure. Even if he did, he might not have unlocked the seal, but there might be an opponent who had unlocked 2 seals. If such a heaven and earth sacred treasure appeared in his opponent's hands, Kang Xinmu would be extremely happy. Happy? That's right, happy. First, if Kang Xinmu relied on the black dragon consciousness in his body, he would not lose to anyone. Second, his opponent had such a powerful thing. Once Kang Xinmu got his hands on it, wouldn't that be wonderful? Therefore, Kang Xinmu was not particularly afraid that there would be some undefeatable opponent on this trip. Even if he could not compete, it would definitely be because his opponent had a stronger heaven and earth sacred treasure. In this case, he could just snatch it directly. Wouldn't that be too comfortable? Say, this time, the middle-grade relic was found in the 7th region. Are there any dangers along the way? Emperor Shi asked a little cautiously. Originally, there were. But since Emperor Shi is personally traveling with us, there naturally won't be any danger. Su Yi pursed her lips and smiled. She respected Emperor Shi quite a bit. It was obvious that Emperor Shi's strength had gained the recognition of all the demon god clan's cultivators. Not to mention anything else, just the fact that he had a sacred item of heaven and earth that had all 9 layers of engravings unlocked in his hands allowed Emperor Shi to have the ability to fight 1 against 10. When facing other supreme cultivators, if Emperor Shi used his full strength, he would definitely be able to kill 10 of them. This was not a joke. If not for this, Emperor Shi would not have been so highly regarded by a little girl from the demon god clan like Su Yi. It should be known that even if there was some reverence for the supreme cultivators of other clans, it was absolutely impossible to be so respectful. However, Su Yi had some respect for Emperor Shi. Of course, one of the reasons was that Emperor Shi was Kang Xinmu's personal teacher. She had some respect for Kang Xinmu, so naturally, she had the same feeling for Emperor Shi. Let's go. Su Yi immediately led the way forward. Chapter 4904. From the 6th zone to the 7th zone, the road would not be completely safe. Although there were many roads, each road would be guarded by many people. Perhaps, it would be more appropriate to say that they were squatting on the road. Some strong cultivators from the races would specially form teams to squat on the road from the 6th zone to the 7th zone. If they encountered any passing teams that were not very strong, they would rob them. Moreover, in such an underground world, if one was surrounded, they would not be able to escape even if they wanted to. Therefore, once they encountered such a situation, as long as they were not as strong as the other party, they would basically end up with nothing. However, these robbers also knew how to judge people. Not everyone would be robbed. For example, Emperor Shi, who was now leading Kang Xinmu and the others, would not be so blind as to rob them. Emperor Shi was now a hot commodity that no one dared to approach. She had just obtained a sacred treasure of the world with 9 layers of engravings. Who would have nothing better to do and be tired of living to rob her? Once her figure was discovered, those robbers would be too busy hiding. It was impossible for them to take the initiative to jump out and cause trouble. Therefore, for Kang Xinmu and the others, this road was definitely safe. In the 7th zone of the Chaos Battlefield, there are currently no strongholds of any races. This is because there are 2 underground races that have always been living in the 7th zone. These 2 underground races are extremely strong. They are not like ordinary creatures, and they are not like us who practice the inheritance of the strong cultivators passed down from ancient times. They are pure killing creatures. It is as if they were born to protect those ruins. In fact, in the upper 6 zones, there are similar creatures that exist. However, they have now been wiped out by our people. In the upper three zones, there are very few of these creatures. Basically, they have not been bred. Therefore, we have not encountered such things in the beginning. Until history, when our ancestors developed the fourth zone, they encountered these creatures there. Their combat power is extremely strong, and they are very good at hiding. In a place like the underground of the Chaos battlefield, they have a natural combat advantage. In the beginning, all of our major races suffered heavy losses. However, since there weren't many of those creatures, we gradually gained a foothold in the fourth region, then the fifth region, the sixth region. Until today, those creatures no longer exist in the three middle layers. However, the seventh region is different. The seventh region is still ruled by the two underworld creatures. Many of the ruins are guarded by the underworld creatures. That's why very few races come down to explore the seventh region. The intermediate ruins here aren't much different from the intermediate ruins above. Most people want to explore the intermediate ruins in the upper levels before coming down to explore the seventh region. As for the Bone Imperial clan and the Polaris tribe of the Star God clan, they specialize in exploring the ruins in the seventh region. They are experienced and have many experts. Although they can't establish a firm foothold in the seventh region, they can at least protect themselves. The self-protection I'm talking about refers to the fact that they can protect themselves in the seventh region without any superiors. It's said that they've also dabbled in the eighth and ninth regions. Of course, they haven't achieved much. There were many layers of the chaotic battlefield. The first to the sixth regions were relatively close to the ground. Now, there wasn't any danger unless they entered the ruins. That would depend on their own abilities. However, from the seventh region onwards, even if they were outside the ruins, they would encounter life-threatening dangers. After the experts of the major races discussed and speculated, they guessed that these underworld creatures were condensed by the aura of the ruins. The lower the level, the more life-threatening they would be. If they wanted to exterminate all these underworld creatures in the seventh region, perhaps all the races would have to send out half of their supreme experts to exterminate them. Moreover, these underworld creatures had lived underground for a long time and were extremely familiar with the underground environment. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to catch up with them. If it wasn't for experts with special means, even supreme experts might not be able to catch up with these underworld creatures. Therefore, at this stage, no race tried to exterminate these underworld creatures. They just let nature take its course. From the number of underworld creatures, it could be seen that the number of ruins in the seventh region was probably equivalent to the total number of ruins in the first 6 regions. This was an extremely terrifying number. That was, there were tens of thousands of ruins of different levels. In fact, it wasn't easy to find any ruins in the seventh region because these ruins were basically protected by underworld creatures. Each ruin was a gathering place for underworld creatures. It was easier said than done to dig the entrance to the ruins. These underworld creatures had 2 forms. One was a metal form, and the other was a rock form. They belonged to 2 different races. However, these metal and rock forms absorbed the powerful aura that flowed out of the ruins. Therefore, they possessed life, or rather, the ability to move. They had become existences that automatically protected the ruins. This was where the biggest problem lay. Of course, this time, when the Demon God clan invited Kong Shinmu and the others to help, they had already cleaned up all the underworld creatures at the entrance of the intermediate ruins in advance. These underworld creatures wouldn't benefit from killing them. Their bodies were just metal or rock. After being smashed, the power from the ruins would return to the ruins, and the cultivators who smashed them wouldn't get anything. One day later, under Su Ye's lead, Emperor Shi and the Divine Dragon soon arrived at the 7th region. The murderous aura here was extremely strong, and they could feel the existence of a very oppressive aura. It's precisely because the intermediate ruins are in the 7th region that the Dragon God stronghold didn't receive any news. If it weren't for the Demon God clan's invitation, we wouldn't have known the existence of this intermediate ruins at all. Kang Xinmu thought to himself as he followed the crowd forward. They didn't encounter any danger along the way. But soon, some powerful auras began to appear in the opened underground rock passageway. They faintly came to the surroundings of Kang Xinmu and the others. Although the supreme-level Emperor Shi Divine Dragon was present, and those powerful auras didn't seem to intend to make a move, Kang Xinmu could clearly feel that these powerful auras were gathering in the surrounding rock passageways. Chapter 4905. In the 7th zone, there were no more cultivators from various clans waiting for them. The threat came only from the underground creatures. The underground creatures could travel freely through rocks and even metal. They attacked the cultivators from various clans who came to the 7th zone, and they attacked without fear of death. But if the intruders were too strong, these underground creatures would keep waiting for more and more of their companions to arrive, then they would gather together and attack the intruders. Now, Kang Xinmu and the others were in a state of anxiety. Now, the number of underground creatures hiding in the surrounding rock passages was increasing. Once they attacked, even Emperor Shi might not be able to completely block them. She was definitely not in danger, but she might not be able to protect the others. Speed up, and these underground creatures will not attack. Just as everyone was getting nervous, Emperor Shi had a lot of experience in this. She raised her hand, and suddenly, a wave of void power wrapped around everyone, bringing them to the rock passage in front of them. In just a moment, they had traversed a distance that would have taken them 2 hours before. This way, their movements became extremely fast. With the help of Emperor Shi's divine dragon, the underground creatures did not even have time to gather to a certain number before they were left behind. Seeing this, Sui covered her mouth and chuckled. As expected of Senior Emperor Shi. You are too amazing. How did you go to the 6th zone alone to wait for us in such a dangerous place? Kang Xinmu had a question at this time, and he could not help but ask. I went with the Supreme Elder of our Demon God clan, Sui explained. But when we reached the 6th zone, he went to pick up the people from the ancient Phoenix clan. I waited here for you. The Elder said that you have Emperor Shi to lead the way, so you will be fine. Now, it seems that is indeed the case. It seemed that the ancient Phoenix clan was at ease and did not find a Supreme Elder to lead them. But this kind of thing should have been arranged by the higher-ups of the 3 major clans, so it was not an impromptu decision. Kang Xinmu did not need to worry about this in this aspect. Under the guidance of Emperor Shi, Sui led the way. Soon, everyone walked through the rock passages that extended in all directions and came to a vast underground space. In this underground space, Kang Xinmu felt the aura of many powerful existences. There are many demon gods. The demon god ancestor's consciousness was the first to sense the aura coming from the front. Immediately after, everyone turned a corner and looked over. In this vast underground space, there were indeed many demon god powerhouses. First, there were the 130 peak 9th level Emperor level experts who were about to enter the mid-level relic. Next, there were at least 20 peak super divine dragon experts from the demon god race guarding the perimeter of the underground space. At this moment, battles were still erupting in the surroundings of this underground space. As far as the eye could see, Kang Xinmu could see that in the surrounding rock layer of the underground space, there were some metal or stone giants condensing and breaking into this underground space. These giants formed by metal and rock were 2 types of underground creatures. At this moment, they appeared directly from the surrounding rocks. No one knew how many there were. In short, they kept attacking and charging into the underground space. Now, the 130 demon god race super mystical dragon pinnacle powerhouses were also helping to deal with these giants. How did this look like a preparation site for exploring ruins? This was like a battlefield. It was no wonder that even though there were many ruins in the 7th region, few people came here to explore the ruins. It was too troublesome. While waiting for the ruins to open, they had to hold their ground as there would be underworld creatures attacking them. Jiang Shenwu even discovered that there were more than 159th level Emperor level Demon God clan cultivators gathered there, not just 130 of them. These people were doing their best to resist the surrounding underground creatures. In the beginning, we had 200 people. However, after 6 months of guarding, we've already lost more than 40 people. Su Yi sighed and said. When Kang Xinmu heard this, his heart trembled. This loss was too terrifying. They hadn't even entered the ruins and they had already lost so many people. In fact, the demon god race is also training their troops. Emperor Shi was not surprised by this. He smiled and said, if it wasn't for the idea of training soldiers, why would they come to the 7th region to search for relics? Although there are only 150 people left from the original 200, each one of them is the elite of the elites. Moreover, your losses were the greatest at the beginning. Now, they must have stabilized. This kind of thing seemed to have been done by the dragon gods before. Therefore, Emperor Shi was very familiar with it. Su Yi pursed his lips and smiled. Emperor Shi is right. The 150 people who are left are the elites of the elites. The ruins will open in 3 days. You don't need to help outside when you come here. After all, your most important battlefield is in the ruins. The division of the middle-level ruins exploration had already been agreed upon. Whatever Kang Xinmu and the others obtained, they could keep 70%, and 30% would be given to the demon god race. Of course, in the ruins, the demon god race would also try their best to cooperate with them and not be hostile to them. The demon god race, dragon god race, and ancient phoenix clan had the same opponents, the bone imperial race and the star god race's Polaris tribe. There were 20 elites from both sides, and they were preparing to explore the middle-level ruins. Moreover, at a glance, Kang Xinmu could see that there were 40 cultivators with inheritances that he had never seen before. They were in the underground space, participating in the fight against the 2 underground creatures. Among them, 20 cultivators with inheritances transformed into skeletons. They were like skeletal monsters that wreaked havoc in the underground space. The strength they displayed was much stronger than the 9th-level demon emperor powerhouses of the demon god tribe. Of course, peak powerhouses like Huang Yun were not included in the list. There were also 20 cultivators with inheritances from the Polaris tribe of the star god race. The star god totem behind them was the extremely bright Polaris totem. Although they belonged to the star god race, they were older than most of the star god race's cultivators, and their overall strength was stronger. They could be considered royalty in the star god race. Of course, the Polaris tribe rarely managed the internal affairs of the star god race. They seemed to be aloof from worldly affairs, and they had their own code of conduct and development model. Now, there were not many people in the Polaris tribe, but each of them was the elite of the elites. Chapter 4906. From this, it could be seen that the 9th-level Emperor-level combatants of the Bone Royal tribe and the Polaris tribe were the true pinnacle, and each of them was only slightly weaker than Huang Yun. There were even a few at the same level as Huang Yun, and there were not many peak Emperor-level combatants like Huang Yun in the entire demon god race. Although it was not difficult to find dozens of 9th-level Emperor-level combatants like Huang Yun, most of them were active in other areas. Moreover, the population of the demon god race was hundreds of times more than that of the Bone Royal tribe and the Polaris tribe. This was the difference. The Bone Royal tribe and the Polaris tribe were all elites, and each of them was their most elite warrior. Once they died in the relic, it would be a great loss. But their population was small, and once they obtained enough cultivation resources in the relic, each member of their race would be able to get a lot more cultivation resources, so it was naturally much easier for them to cultivate than other races. In any case, there were now 20 people from the Bone Royal tribe, 20 from the Polaris tribe, and more than 150 from the demon god race. Among them, 130 would enter the intermediate relic. In addition, there were 5 people from the dragon gods, including Kong Shinmu, and 5 people from the ancient phoenix tribe. Murong Lieni had not come yet. But since the intermediate relic would only open in 3 days, Kong Shinmu and the others could familiarize themselves with the environment first. After everyone arrived, they first observed the surrounding situation and found nothing unusual. Then, Emperor Shi left alone. Of course, she only separated from Kong Shinmu and the others, but did not leave the underground space. She directly found the supreme combatant leading the team of the demon god race. This time, the demon god race had directly dispatched 3 supreme powerhouses. One of them was not present at the moment. He had gone out to pick up Murong Lieni and the others from the ancient Phoenix clan. There were still 2 supreme powerhouses guarding the underground space, guarding the surrounding underground creatures. They were also fighting. Otherwise, the underground space would have fallen long ago. It should be known that the 2 underground creatures also had powerful existences that had absorbed a lot of power from the relic. They could almost compete with the supreme existences. If there were no supreme combatants guarding the relic, as long as the underground creatures of this level appeared, the entire underground space would be completely lost. Therefore, it was said that a few supreme experts had to stand guard together as well. Originally, there were only 3 supreme cultivators of the demon god race guarding the place. But now, with the addition of 2 supreme cultivators from the Bone Imperial tribe and the Polaris tribe, and with the arrival of Emperor Shi's divine dragon, there were a total of 6 supreme cultivators guarding the place. In this way, the pressure of guarding the underground space would be much less. Emperor Shi's mystical dragon greeted all the supreme-level cultivators present. Although it looked very harmonious, in reality, Kong Shinmu could feel that the supreme-level cultivators were a little wary of each other. Every supreme powerhouse did not get close to each other at all. Instead, they each guarded in different directions. Emperor Shi's mystical dragon also greeted them. Then, he found a direction and began to guard it. Metal and rock, 2 types of underground creatures, continued to condense from the rocks and then swept out. However, they were all incinerated into ashes by Emperor Shi's mystical dragon with a raise of his hand. They were afraid that the supreme-level cultivators of the major races would fight, so everyone kept a distance. As for Kong Shinmu and the other 4, they followed Su Yi and returned to the center of the underground space. There was an underground platform here for the injured cultivators to rest. You can wait here for 3 days. After the relic officially opens, you can enter. Of course, you can also go to the surrounding area to kill those underground creatures. The prerequisite is that you don't attack the cultivators of other races. After Su Yi brought Kong Shinmu and the others over to rest, he smiled and said, "This can be considered a customary rule. When guarding the periphery of the 7th zone, all the major races have to work together. Even if they don't help each other, they can't attack each other." Kong Shinmu understood this rule. If they fought before entering the relic, the major races were not here to explore the relic but to fight. The consequences would be much more serious. To put it simply, all the major races came here to explore the relic and to gain something. Therefore, they would try their best to avoid fighting before entering the relic. This was a customary rule for all parties. There was no need to say much, and everyone would abide by it. Kong Shinmu and the others naturally understood this point very easily, so they all nodded their heads. "Let's go kill some underground creatures first and get a feel of it." Shengguan Dai, was a little eager at this moment. She could feel the murderous aura around her. Of course, she was not willing to rest here for 3 days. Before entering the relic, she could still warm up a little. Kong Shinmu looked around and saw many experts, including Huang Yun. However, it was obvious that Huang Yun did not use his full strength when fighting against these underground creatures. It was impossible for him to display his full strength before entering the relic for others to see through. As for the other ordinary cultivators, if their strength was not considered top-notch, even if they used their full strength, not many people would notice, so it did not matter. If Kang Xinmu were to make a move, he would definitely need to hide his true strength. He found that there were many underground creatures around, but they were mainly divided into 3 levels of strength. One was the mid-level Emperor level, similar to the 4th to 6th level of Emperor level. This level of underground creatures often appeared in groups of dozens. Although their individual strength was relatively weak, their overall combat strength could not be underestimated. The other was the high-level Emperor level, similar to the peak of the 9th level Emperor level here. This type of underground creature was basically someone who would go up and fight it one-on-one. The other was the level of Super Shenron. Underground creatures at the level of Super Shenron were much stronger. They were not something that the peak of the 9th level Emperor level cultivators who were about to enter the relic could deal with. Basically, it was the supreme experts of each race who were responsible for blocking these supreme god-level underground creatures. There were also many supreme god-level experts present. Even the Bone Imperial tribe and the Polaris tribe had several supreme god-level experts accompanying them. On the side of the dragon gods, there was only one Emperor Shi Divine Dragon. But an Emperor Shi Divine Dragon was completely incomparable to a supreme god-level expert. Chapter 4907. The fierce battle continued. The 5 supreme experts were at the outermost layer. They were the mainstay of the battle, resisting the underground creatures with supreme strength that appeared from time to time. Among these underground creatures, there would occasionally be a supreme existence with supreme strength. Every time it appeared, there would be a supreme expert who was closest to it to fight it. Fortunately, these supreme underground creatures were not too strong. Or rather, these underground creatures were not too strong among cultivators of the same level. Basically, they could not beat the elite geniuses of the same level. Previously, more than 40 demon gods had died. That was because they were outnumbered and had no other choice. Otherwise, if it had been a one-on-one battle, no one would have lost. Sometimes, even the weaker underground creatures would appear in dozens at once. It was a great challenge for cultivators to deal with a 9th-level Emperor stage cultivator. Looking at the 5 supreme experts leading the fight against the underground creatures that constantly appeared, Kang Xinmu also wanted to give it a try. This was the first time he had encountered these underground creatures. Now that he was fighting, it would be a warm-up before entering the relic. Kang Xinmu said goodbye to Shengguan Dai, and the others, then rushed to the edge of the stone wall where the underground creatures appeared. He had transformed into a black dragon, which was quite eye-catching in this underground space. After all, in this area, there were not many dragon warriors. In fact, at present, the only dragon warrior was Emperor Shi. The others were either from the Bone Royal family or the Star God clan. They had summoned the inheritance of the Bone Royal family and the Star God totem, or they had the body of a black demon god in various forms. Now that Kang Xinmu appeared, he transformed into a black dragon and roared at the 2 underground creatures. The 2 underground creatures that Kang Xinmu had chosen had just rushed out of the stone wall. Originally, there were 2 geniuses of the demon god clan who were responsible for stopping them, but they were held up by other underground creatures and could not stop these 2 underground creatures. Seeing that Kang Xinmu had made his move, the 2 geniuses of the demon god clan breathed a sigh of relief, but they were also a little curious. They recognized that the dragon warrior in front of them was Kang Xinmu, the genius young man of the dragon god clan who was going to break into the middle-level relic with them this time. One of them had even seen Kang Xinmu in the arena before. They wanted to see what kind of battle prowess Kang Xinmu possessed. The 2 underground creatures that Kang Xinmu was currently facing were existences at the peak of level 9 Emperor stage. Their combat strength was definitely not weak, and they could even resonate with the power of the relic if they joined forces. It would be very difficult for him to fight two of them at the same time. However, Kang Xinmu didn't seem to care about them at all as he charged towards them. 9th Stage Extreme Dao Draconic Explosion. A total of 8 waves of Hui Dragon explosions erupted in front of one of the underground creatures. Terrifying black waves of devouring power surged in all directions. One of the underground creatures bore the brunt of the impact and was directly blasted back hundreds of feet by the power of the 8 waves of Hui Dragon explosions. It slammed deeply into the surrounding stone wall and looked extremely pathetic. However, upon closer inspection, there were no injuries on its body at all. Kang Xinmu's 8 waves of Hui Dragon explosions did not cause any damage to it. At the same time, another underground creature charged towards Kang Xinmu. Its body was rippling with an extremely strong power. The appearance of this power made Kang Xinmu's heart skip a beat. This power was the power of the relic? These underground creatures were formed by absorbing the power of the relic in the 7th zone of the chaotic battlefield. It was not just the one they were currently exploring, but a collection of all the relics in the 7th zone. When all the power of the relic was combined, it appeared to be ever-changing and strange. It could display different characteristics at different times. For example, the underground creature that Kang Xinmu was facing was formed by the power of an unknown relic. Its entire body was covered in flames, and its stone lion-like body was burning with endless flames. It formed a flaming tornado that blasted towards Kang Xinmu. Great Compassion Sky Dragon Seal. Kang Xinmu immediately activated the defensive technique of the Great Compassion Sky Dragon Seal. He also released the defensive stance of the Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Art. In the face of an unknown creature, Kang Xinmu couldn't be the slightest bit careless. Hence, it didn't matter if he used all the techniques that he had used in the arena battles. The other party's flaming tornado continued to sweep over and bombarded Kang Xinmu's defensive barrier. However, it did not cause any trouble for Kang Xinmu. In fact, Kang Xinmu's current defensive ability was considered extremely tyrannical among the peak of the 9th stage Emperor level. Hence, he could naturally withstand the bombardment of this level of underground creature. Not only that, but his devouring power was also continuously devouring the other party's power. Devour. Kang Xinmu's devouring power turned into a black storm that shrouded the underground creature and devoured all the flaming tornadoes that erupted from it. This is the power of the relic? Kang Xinmu couldn't help but have a strange feeling when he felt the special power contained in the relic. He felt that the power of the relic wasn't a type of power. Instead, it seemed to be a combination of all the flame powers. It had various characteristics of flames and could even burn space and souls. It was just that the underground creature in front of him couldn't fully utilize it. All the supreme relics in the 7th zone definitely contained countless types of power. These underground creatures seemed to have traveled all over the 7th zone and devoured various attributes of power. For example, the underground creature in front of him might have absorbed many attributes of the fire attribute relics. In that case, if Kang Xinmu killed more underground creatures, it would definitely be of great help to his journey to the intermediate relics. A type of fire attribute underground creature would have all kinds of flame powers. If Kang Xinmu devoured all the underground creatures of all attributes, wouldn't that mean that Kang Xinmu would have a comprehensive defense against all attributes of power? Moreover, Kang Xinmu discovered that when he devoured the power of the relic, he would actually have some comprehension of these powers. This comprehension seemed useless at the moment, but when Kang Xinmu cultivated the dragon martial arts of this attribute, he would succeed in cultivating them faster. I hope I can devour some darkness attribute to enhance my 9th stage ultimate roaring dragon explosion. There are also space-type beasts that can help me improve the power of the void. These subterranean creatures are of great help to my cultivation. Chapter 4908. There was no doubt that Kang Shinmu had never thought that devouring the power of these underground creatures would be so beneficial to his comprehension of various powers. This was similar to how Kang Shinmu devoured the power of other people's dragon martial technique to improve his own dragon martial technique. Not long ago, Kang Shinmu devoured Emperor Shi Divine Dragon's 9th stage Extreme Roaring Dragon Explosion, which Emperor Shi Divine Dragon had cultivated to the ultimate saint realm. Kang Shinmu directly devoured some of his comprehension of the 9th stage Extreme Roaring Dragon Explosion, which improved his comprehension of the 9th stage Extreme Roaring Dragon Explosion a lot. Now, this kind of devouring power of the underground creatures was similar to Kang Shinmu's method. For Kang Shinmu, this was undoubtedly a great way to improve. If he could continue fighting here and devour those underground creatures, Kang Shinmu's strength would improve quite quickly. However, the appearance of these underground creatures was random. Kang Shinmu could not survive in the 7th region alone, so he could only take advantage of this opportunity to kill more. If I had known earlier, I would have come earlier. Kang Shinmu was feeling a little uncomfortable now. If he had come a few months earlier, he did not know what level he would have improved to. At least, if he had killed more space attribute underground creatures, his virtual power inheritance would have improved to a very high level. However, there is no need to worry now. This time, there is not only me, but also Su Yi, Huang Yun, Murong Liani, and the others. There should be no problems. Kang Shinmu thought in his heart. This exploration of the ruins should not be too dangerous, but he still had to be careful. Kang Shinmu immediately began to fight with the 2 underground creatures. While fighting fiercely, he also devoured their power of the ruins. At the same time, he was also observing the movements of his opponents. This included the Bone Imperial family and the 40 genius experts of the North Star tribe of the Star God clan. Kang Shinmu had not come into contact with the Bone Imperial family, so now he could observe the inherited fighting style of this clan. He felt that their power was a kind of dead spirit power. Their bodies turned into countless bones, some were giant beasts, some were giants. This was the Bone Imperial family. The Bone Imperial family inherited the power of bones. The inheritor could collect all kinds of bones and combine them into a carrier to carry the Bone Imperial family's inheritance power. The difference in form was not much to Kang Shinmu, but he was familiar with the conventional fighting style of the Bone Imperial family. As for their trump card, they definitely hadn't used it yet. However, it would be too difficult for them to use it to deal with these underground creatures. Once they exposed their trump card outside, they would most likely be on guard after entering the ruins, and they would lose the entire game. Jiang Shenwu observed the battle and quickly discovered that the bodies of these underground creatures that bore the power of the relic were extremely tyrannical. Their defensive capabilities had reached an astonishing level, but their offensive capabilities were all based on the power of the relic that they had absorbed from their bodies. These power of the ruins had different attributes, and the burst of power of different attributes brought a lot of trouble to the practitioners, but the biggest problem was their own strong bodies. After these rocks and metals absorbed the power of the ruins, they became extremely hard. If the practitioners wanted to defeat the underground creatures of the same level, they would need to burst out many conventional attacks to completely crush their opponents. For Kang Shinmu, it was the same, but he was a little different from the others. About half an hour later, Kang Shinmu had completely devoured the power of the flame relic of the underground creature with the fire attribute. Then he casually used the 9th stage roaring dragon explosion to blast its body into pieces. This was because after the power of the ruins was completely devoured, the underground creature had already returned to ordinary rocks or metals, and had lost the ability to move together. This gave Kang Shinmu some new ideas. If the devouring power was strong enough, wouldn't he be able to deal with any underground creature of any level? Even if it was a supreme underground creature. As long as the power of the ruins in its body was devoured, it would naturally collapse. In front of Kang Shinmu, it would just be ordinary rocks and metals. This made Kang Xinmu a little excited, but it was extremely difficult to implement this idea. After all, a supreme-level underground creature was too strong. A casual attack from it could blast Jiang Shenwu into smithereens. It was simply impossible for it to persist until the power of the relic in his body was completely devoured. Do you still remember the disguise? At this moment, the Black Dragon's consciousness directly entered Kang Xinmu's mind. This made Kang Xinmu's expression change slightly. That's right, disguise. Disguise was another ability of the devouring power. It could devour a certain kind of power and make one's own power carry that power's attribute, thus disguising one's aura. It's impossible to distinguish these underground creatures with the naked eye. The only way to distinguish them is through aura. The ancestor demon god's consciousness also jumped out at this moment, looking very excited. That's right. In that case, little Jiang, you can disguise yourself as an underground creature's aura and get close. Directly devour the power of the ruins of those supreme underground creatures. Won't you be able to become stronger rapidly? In that case, it seems to be right. Kang Xinmu seemed to have come to a sudden realization. He had really forgotten about the disguise function, mainly because it could only disguise one's aura and not one's appearance. In many cases, it could not be used at all. However, this was not the case for underground creatures. If he wanted to deceive underground creatures, he could directly disguise himself as the aura of the ruins. That could work, but, Kang Xinmu thought to himself, even if I can devour the power of the ruins, it will only enhance my understanding of these powers. It is basically impossible for my combat strength to skyrocket. After all, not every type of power is useful for my current combat strength. This was also something that needed to be considered. Among these ruins, there are the relics of the supreme divine dragon, the demon god, and even other things. I might even find the relics of the heaven-deficient demonic dragon of ice and fire. Only the power of the ruins is useful to me. It can improve the grades of my inheritances. Other than that, most of the other powers can only be used to improve my understanding of the dragon technique. However, the dragon technique that I'm cultivating now doesn't have many attributes. All in all, devouring all the power of the ruins won't do me any harm. Although the improvement won't be much, when I encounter something in the future that I need to understand these powers, I will be able to break through in one go. Looks like after this exploration of the intermediate ruins, I can stay in the 7th zone for a while. Chapter 4909. No matter what Kang Xinmu decided to do, it was a matter to be decided after the exploration of the intermediate relic. Compared to devouring the power of the relic from the underground creatures, it was obviously more useful to explore the intermediate relic. After all, to Kang Xinmu, if there were skeletons of the dragon gods, the demon gods, or the heaven-deficient demonic dragon of ice and fire in the intermediate relic, it would be a great gain for him. Even if there were skeletons of the ancestors of the void human race, it would still be a great gain. Of course, it was said that the history of the void human race was not long, so there might not be any ancestors of the void human race in the relic. But in any case, as long as he devoured the skeletons of supreme beings that cultivated the power of the void, it would be helpful for Kang Xinmu's inheritance of the power of the void. At this moment, after Kang Xinmu dealt with his 2 underground creatures, he rushed in other directions without hesitation to help the other cultivators deal with the underground creatures. He was helping the geniuses of the demon god race. These geniuses of the demon god race were not weak, but each of them had been fighting for too long. Of course, the key was that there was no benefit in killing these underground creatures. Hence, they were not motivated to fight. To them, if someone came to help them take over the targets of their opponents, it would be great. They could also take a break. Therefore, when Kang Xinmu came to attack the underground creatures, the geniuses of the demon god race were very happy. Of course, Kang Shinmu could not help too many at once. He came one by one, and after helping one, he would help another. If more underground creatures appeared on the surrounding stone walls, he would directly rush over and take them over. In a short period of time, Kang Shinmu had taken over the entire area of underground creatures. He was even responsible for the area that originally needed 10 people to take care of. This made many of the geniuses of the demon god race relax. How comfortable. Is this the super genius of the dragon gods, Kang Shinmu? I didn't expect that. Not only is Kang Shinmu powerful and talented, but he is also a warm-hearted person. With his help, we'll have an easier time. Although it's a little embarrassing, he seems to be able to deal with the underworld creature easily. First, he confronted it, and then he killed the underworld creature in one move. The geniuses of the demon god race gathered together to chat and rest. They watched as Kang Shinmu killed the underworld creatures on their original battlefield. It felt surreal. There were actually people who would do such a thankless task. However, they had also heard of some things. For example, Kang Shinmu's power seemed to be related to devouring. The more he devoured, the stronger he became. Right now, it seemed to be the relic power in the bodies of the underground creatures. Of course, these people did not know that as long as Kang Shinmu devoured the relic power, he would have a way to improve his comprehension in all aspects. They only thought that Kang Shinmu could strengthen his defense through devouring power, and it was only a temporary enhancement. Only a few geniuses of the demon god race knew about this. These people had heard of Kang Shinmu and had inquired about Kang Shinmu's existence. After all, Kang Shinmu had helped Suyi of the demon god race a lot. Even the royal family of the demon god race had obtained a good method to improve their strength. Although there was no evidence to prove that it was related to Kang Shinmu, according to the various things that happened in the Longwu Continent's arena battle, Kang Shinmu should be related to this matter. This caused the people of the demon god race to have a good impression of Kang Shinmu. The most important thing was that there was no deep hatred between the demon god race and the dragon god race. There were certainly some small conflicts, but those were normal competitions during the exploration of the relic. This time, Kang Shinmu had come as a helper of the demon god race, so he had to give a portion of the things he obtained to the demon god race. As for the specific proportion, these ordinary demon god race cultivators did not know, but this also made them feel no ill will toward Kang Shinmu. Now that they saw Kang Shinmu helping them kill the underground creatures, regardless of Kang Shinmu's original intentions and plans, it made things easier for them. Naturally, they had a good impression of Kang Shinmu. In the field, Kang Shinmu constantly bombarded the underground creatures, and he did not use any powerful means. He just constantly performed the 9 ultimate dragon burst, and then used the devouring power to devour the power of the relic in the bodies of the underground creatures. Even the supreme experts around could not see that Kang Shinmu could directly devour the power of the relic in their bodies to restore these underground creatures to ordinary metal and stone. If they knew, they would probably be shocked and incredulous. To restore the underground creatures to ordinary metal and stone, what kind of terrifying ability was this? If it was carried forward, perhaps it could allow a race to completely establish a foothold in the 7th region, and even allow that race to be the first to build a stronghold in the 7th region. Unfortunately, this ability of Kang Shinmu could not be discovered by the people of the dragon god race, and he was not willing to provide such an opportunity to the dragon god race. Anyway, there was no benefit to him, and if he exposed himself, it would be detrimental to his own safety. When Kang Shinmu continued to kill the underground creatures, he devoured more and more power of the relic, and the comprehension of various powers in his body was growing like mushrooms after the rain. Among them, he also devoured a lot of the power of the dark attribute. The comprehension of the power of the dark attribute gave Kang Shinmu an effect similar to the essence of the dark attribute's spiritual energy, which could help him cultivate and comprehend the 9 ultimate dragon burst, the dragon martial technique, to a higher level. Choose the underground creatures of the dark attribute to devour first. Kang Xinmu set a goal for himself. There were many attributes of the surrounding underground creatures, and it was not so easy to find only the dark attribute. However, Kang Xinmu had killed too many underground creatures, and no matter how many types of attributes there would be many dark attribute underground creatures. The power of the dark attribute of the relic of the underground creatures was all devoured by Kang Xinmu. After that, Jiang Shenwu discovered that his comprehension of the high-rank divine spirit dragon's martial skill, the 9th stage extreme Dao Hui dragon explosion, had become deeper and deeper, and it actually seemed to be advancing towards the peak level. Once he truly cultivated this move to the peak level, Jiang Shenwu's lethality would at least double. Moreover, his execution speed would be even faster, and it would be even more impossible to guard against. He killed faster and faster, and the underground creatures could hardly last more than half an hour in his hands, which attracted the attention of all kinds of experts around. Chapter 49:10. Shenghuan Dai, Tan Shouzhua, and Chu Yueqiang formed a small team of 3, constantly hunting the underground creatures. They did not use too much of their strength. The 3 of them killed the underground creatures as a warm-up. They were speechless as they watched Kang Xinmu work so hard to kill the underground creatures. They could not understand why Kang Xinmu was so desperate. This boy. I'm afraid there's something special about these underground creatures that is beneficial to him. Tan Shouzhua looked at Kang Xinmu's actions from afar and said after some thought. There must be some benefits. At the very least, it can greatly increase his resistance to the various elements in the ruins. Shenghuan Dai, was more familiar with Kang Xinmu, and there was something she did not say. That was, Kang Xinmu could absorb the power of her shadowy sunset flash to increase his own understanding of the shadowy sunset flash, the dragon martial technique. Could it be that devouring these underground creatures would have a similar effect? Seeing how passionate Kang Xinmu was about killing the underground creatures, it was likely that this was the case. However, only Shenghuan Dai, knew about this, and at most Emperor Shi and the Divine Dragon knew about it. Even Gu Xinyue did not know about Kang Xinmu's special strength in this aspect. Gu Xinyue was moving alone. Her combat strength was much stronger than Shenghuan Dai's and the others, and she could even fight all 3 of them. After all, Gu Xinyue was a 6th-grade disciple of the 5 Extremes Dark Ice Holy Land, and she had the combat strength of a super divine dragon. Her combat strength might even be stronger than the demon god race's Huang Yun, which was about the same as the ancient Phoenix clan's Murong Liani. Of course, after Murong Liani's nirvana, she had obtained Kang Xinmu's devouring power. Perhaps there were some mysterious changes that made her very strong. In short, before Murong Liani came, Gu Xinyue's combat strength was definitely in the top 3 among all the peak emperor-level cultivators. Even if the Bone Imperial tribe and the Polaris tribe were included, she was a true peak emperor-level cultivator. She had broken through the limits of the emperor level and reached the super divine dragon level. Only such a strong cultivator was the most terrifying existence in exploring intermediate ruins. Gu Xinyue was also lazily killing the underground creatures, but she did not provoke the super divine dragon level creatures. After all, she did not want to expose her full strength before entering the intermediate ruins. Moreover, those underground creatures at the level of the super mystical dragon probably had battle prowess that surpassed the first level of the super mystical dragon. Even if Gu Xinyue used all her strength, she might not be able to handle one of them. It was better to let the demon god race's super demon god deal with them. Gu Xinyue was also observing Kang Xinmu. She was very interested in Kang Xinmu's current situation. After all, she was a girl who had a unique relationship with Kang Xinmu. Gu Xinyue was more concerned about Kang Xinmu than the others around her. Now that Kang Xinmu was constantly hunting the underground creatures, Gu Xinyue had a lot of guesses in her heart. Fortunately, she was not the kind of person who wanted to spy on other people's secrets. Otherwise, if she asked Kang Xinmu about this matter, Kang Xinmu really did not know how to answer her. It was not good to lie to her, but if he told the truth, he felt that he would be letting himself down. Gu Xinyue's character was very mature. She would not give Kang Xinmu troublesome things and choices. In this way, everyone joined the fight against the underground creatures, or in Kang Xinmu's case, the hunt for the underground creatures. 2 days later, another supreme powerhouse of the demon god race finally brought the 5 genius powerhouses of the ancient Phoenix clan to the outside of the medium-level ruins. Of the 5 people from the ancient Phoenix clan, Kang Xinmu naturally only recognized Murong Liani. Besides Murong Liani, there were 2 other men and 2 women. They all seemed to have a very strong aura. They were all extremely powerful characters of the ancient Phoenix clan. Among them, 1 man and 1 woman had even participated in the arena battles of the martial dragon continent. They were on the same level as Chu Yueqiang, Tan Shouzhua, and Shengguan Dai. As soon as the people from the ancient Phoenix clan arrived, everyone's attention was focused on them, especially Murong Liani. After all, everyone had heard that the ancient Phoenix clan had a young genius girl who had undergone nirvana and obtained a combat strength that far surpassed her current realm. That was Murong Liani. Murong Liani's beautiful eyes wandered around the battlefield. When she saw Kang Xinmu killing the underground creatures, she flew directly towards Kang Xinmu. This caused Gu Xinyue to feel a sense of crisis. She knew that Murong Liani had undergone nirvana because of her relationship with Kang Xinmu and obtained a stronger strength. This could also be considered as having a unique relationship with Kang Xinmu. Now, seeing Murong Liani approach Kang Xinmu, Gu Xinyue narrowed her eyes from afar. She wanted to see what Murong Liani wanted to say. Kang Xinmu, long time no see. Murong Liani's posture was graceful. She arrived not far from where Kang Xinmu was fighting and greeted him. Do you want me to help? She wanted to help Kang Xinmu, but unfortunately, Kang Xinmu was not simply fighting against the underground creatures. Therefore, he glanced at Murong Liani and could only smile. No need. Leave it to me. Murong Liani giggled and then winked at Kang Xinmu. Then I'll go somewhere else. This time, let's cooperate well in the ruins. After saying this, she turned around and left, not saying anything to Kang Xinmu. It seemed that the relationship between the two was just that of ordinary friends. They did not cross the line. Gu Xinyue let out a sigh of relief. However, this kind of mentality made Gu Xinyue not know whether to laugh or cry. What was wrong with her? An outstanding man like Kang Xinmu would definitely be liked by many people. Murong Liani was from the ancient Phoenix clan. No matter what, it was impossible for her to have that kind of relationship with Kang Xinmu. What was wrong with her, however? It seemed that since ancient times, there were still some marriages between different clans. Or it could not be said to be marriages, but it was common for men and women of different clans to marry each other. After all, to be honest, the various clans were only cultivating different power systems inherited from ancient times. In essence, most of them were just humans. Since they were all humans, there was actually nothing wrong with marrying each other. Rather than saying it was a major clan, it was more appropriate to say it was a major country. It was just that each clan felt that the unit of country was too small, so it was not very appropriate. Gu Xinyue narrowed her eyes and suddenly met Murong Liani's eyes. Unexpectedly, when the two women looked at each other, sparks of hostility and competition could be seen flashing in their eyes.